Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Orochimaru gives Naruto the curse mark. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Who the hell are you? Naruto asked, watching the movements of the grass nen. He had just fought this giant-ass snake, and right when he comes back to his squad he finds this shinobi trying to attack his team. Naruto. Sakura yelled happily, glad her teammate was safe. And Naruto? Sasuke asked, turning around and facing Naruto on the same branch as him. It didn't matter though, not even Naruto, with his never give up attitude, could defeat this Orochimaru. If he couldn't defeat this grass nen then there was no way in hell Naruto could. Naruto slowly walked by the stunned Sasuke, looking over his shoulder as he passed him. Naruto was slightly shocked himself that Sasuke was scared, but if he was scared then that meant trouble for the rest of his team, and he wasn't about to let that happen. Naruto stopped a couple feet past Sasuke as he slowly turned his vision from Sasuke to the grass nen on the same branch as them, but on the far side. Naruto may have not seemed like it all the time, but when he wanted to be smart and act serious he would. He could tell this wasn't any ordinary genin ninja, for some reason he emitted this scarce dark chakra. He knew even if all of them worked together they'd be no match for this guy. He was trying to think of a battle plan they could use, and sadly he found the only one. Psst, Sasuke. Naruto whispered behind his shoulder, drawing Sasuke's attention. I got a plan. Orochimaru was watching the two genin intertwine in conversation, knowing they were trying to find a way to battle him. But that didn't concern him. What did was the fact that the Kyuubi brat, that Naruto, was able to kill one of his servant snakes was just impractical. Even Chunin can barely survive a one-on-one with one of his snakes, yet this mere genin was able to. Maybe he should reconsider giving the Uchiha the curse seal. I mean, so far he's been a disappointment. All the Uchiha's been doing thus far is dodging his attacks. Orochimaru really had to think of this new revelation. Sakura, standing on a branch far from her companions, pondered on what her two teammates were discussing. She was getting kind of mad seeing as they kept her out of the conversation. Another thing to add to her long list of stuff she was useless at. She was glad her teammate, Naruto, was safe and all, but what could they do? Not even her, Sasuke-kun, was able to stop this guy, so there was no way Naruto, the dead last, could do anything. But part of her doubted that, because recently she's started to realize that Naruto isn't as weak as every portrays he is. She just hoped they could figure out something. Sasuke could only be taken aback by Naruto's plan. He wanted to yell, but he knew he needed to be quiet. What are you nuts? Naruto looked to the grass nen before looking back to Sasuke. You have to. It's the only thing we can do, and it might as well be me. I do know the Kage Bunshin, shadow clone, after all. Sasuke didn't think he'd ever say this about Naruto, seeing as he'd always pull out something stupid, however effective, but it seems this time he can't. But this isn't a basic training session with Kakashi, this is real life, you'll die. Gammon Shiro, just deal with it, Naruto said calmly, not looking at Sasuke anymore, nor the grass nen, but at the girl he so loved, Haruno Sakura. He didn't know if she was looking at him when he mouthed something quietly to her, but it didn't matter, at least he was able to see her one last time. Sasuke didn't seem to care about keeping quiet anymore as he yelled out, don't tell me to just deal with it. Naruto looked behind him at the Uchiha's distraught face. Sorry, but you have to. Now, and with a strong will to do as Naruto ordered him, Sasuke turned and jumped to Sakura, grabbing her around the waist, while throwing her over his right shoulder. Sakura would have been yelping happily if they were in any other situation, but not now. Because now she realized where Sasuke was going and where Naruto was staying. They were running from the predator, and Naruto was staying to distract it. You got guts, Gaki, brat. Thinking you could take me on, Orochimaru said, his disguise still up, talking to the backside of Naruto's head as he watched his teammates escape. Naruto slowly turned his gaze to that of the vile snake, his fierce gaze doing little to that of a seasoned ninja, who's killed countless people. Naruto drew two kunai from the pouch on his right thigh, throwing one into his left hand so both knives were pointing down. And with one more stern look he charged the snake. Nameru ya nai, don't underestimate me. Orochimaru, at first, thought it was funny the kid actually thought he might be able to fight him. But then it dawned on him that Naruto knew he was no ordinary ninja, and was prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice just to save his teammates. Such loyalty and determination. This brought a devilish smirk to his maw, his tongue curling around his lips just thinking about how he'd make a great experiment, especially if he learned to control the Kyuubi no Yoko within him. He would be unstoppable. Now all he had to see was his skills, and maybe he'll forget about the Uchiha and focus upon this child. Bringing his attention back to the charging genin, Orochimaru jumped back, avoiding a cross chop from the two kunais Naruto was holding, landing on the side of an upright tree. Using his chakra to hold his feet against the tree's bark, it was going to take more than some kunai to impress him. Then he heard something he didn't think a measly genin would ever say. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, multiple shadow clone technique. 100 clones that looked just like Naruto puffed into existence as they surrounded Orochimaru with the intent to kill. Naruto put on a fighting smirk, he and his clones taking battle stances. Adding a small pulse of chakra to his feet, giving him an extra boost of speed, he and his clones charged Orochimaru, ready to sacrifice themselves for their two teammates. Sasuke, stop. What about Naruto? Sakura screamed, looking over her right shoulder to the back of Sasuke's head. How can we just leave him? It was his choice, Sakura. Sasuke yelled, not wanting to deal with her complaining. He knew Naruto was no match compared to that man, and he knew Naruto was going to most likely die. But Sasuke had promised Naruto he'd take care of Sakura for him no matter what. He could still remember the conversation between them just a moment ago. Flashback. I got a plan, Naruto had said, turning around to face Sasuke. Giving him a stern look before turning back to the snake they were plotting against. Take Sakura-chan, and run as far away from this guy as you can. What are you going to do? Sasuke asked, not liking how this was going so far. I'm going to stay behind and cause a distraction to give you time to run away. Naruto said calmly. This was probably the first time Sasuke had ever seen Naruto so calm and serious. It was obvious to him that Naruto knew how strong and dangerous this guy was, and shouldn't be taken lightly. He couldn't let Naruto stay behind. Yeah, he might be annoying all the time, but he was still his teammate. No, you're going to come with us. Sasuke argued, not wanting to lose his teammate. Sasuke, you promise me, you'll take care of Sakura-chan no matter what, got it? Naruto said, not listening to his teammate anymore. You better run fast, because I won't be able to hold him for too long. And once you get out of this area, keep running, cause I'm going to use a new jutsu that I've been trying to learn and it's very unstable. I don't know what could happen if I make a mistake. Sasuke had a downed look. What's the jutsu? Naruto turned around, making it seem like it was a valuable bit of information. It's called Flashback End. Sasuke could still see his lips move as he spoke the technique, causing Sasuke to yell out quietly, "What are you, nuts?" Not only was Naruto able to learn the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, but to learn that technique as well was just unimaginable, and he was only a genin. Sasuke didn't know how Naruto was getting so strong all of a sudden, and it was starting to irritate him. Sakura didn't care if it was his choice. He was their teammate and they were just leaving without trying to save him at the very least. But no, they were being cowards and ran. And now Sakura realized what Naruto had meant, what he mouthed to her right before Sasuke took her away. He thought they were never going to see each other, and that's why he had said, "Yane, goodbye." Sakura couldn't help but be silent as she looked out into the forest where Naruto was probably fighting that Orochimaru. Her vision starting to go blurry, tears floating away from her face, as Sasuke picked up his pace. To think a simple genin could know an A-ranked jutsu like Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. It's just unattainable. Kabuto really needs to update those stupid ninja info cards he's always saying are so great. Orochimaru, one of 3 legendary Sannin, thought looking at a drained Naruto. Naruto was on his knees, his fatigued arms barely able to hold him up from the ground as he gave Orochimaru another death stare. Naruto had made hundreds of Kage Bunshins, one after the other. But nothing ever got to the guy. He kept pulling out different jutsus, each destroying almost the whole lot of them. He also used this weird sword he would ever so often pulled out of his throat, whenever the real Naruto got close to him, maiming Naruto whenever he got too close, physically telling him to back up. Naruto had a long while ago deduced this guy was around high Junin if not Kage level. I mean, some of these jutsus he was pulling out were just unreal. But he couldn't give up, he wouldn't. With a vicious grunt he pulled himself up. With a quick cross shape of his hands, using his pointers and middle fingers, Naruto screamed, "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Clone Technique." As he said this, several clones came into existence, 3 of the clones jumping at Orochimaru, who eagerly cocked his right arm back. Swinging it forward, a giant snake elapsed out of his sleeve, Jage Jubaku, Snake Authority spell. The 3 clones wrapped their arms around each other's back, creating some kind of small wall, as the snake rammed into them. The 3 grabbed the snake so it wasn't able to move as another clone jumped onto the head of the great snake, holding the real Naruto. Slinging the real Naruto at Orochimaru, the clone called out, "Bunshin Taiatari, clone ramming suicide attack." The real Naruto saw Orochimaru open his mouth, most likely about to strike with that weird sword he's been using whenever he got too close, but before he could, Naruto created yet another clone. Jumping on the clone's back and flipping over Orochimaru, as a snake holding the ominous sword within its mouth extended from Orochimaru's maw and sliced into Naruto's clone. Naruto landed stiffly on the small part of the branch, where Orochimaru was standing, and spinning on his heel Naruto twirled around, bringing out a kunai as he did so. With one swift and strong slice, he cut Orochimaru's head off, the thing flying through the air, landing off somewhere. Naruto had a victorious smirk until he saw that the body was starting to turn into mud. "Tch," Naruto said to himself. "Tsuchi Bunshin, Earth clone." Naruto knew he didn't have much time to hide, seeing as Orochimaru was probably watching him this very instant, but he had to think up something. Should he really use that jutsu? What if Sasuke and Sakura were still in the vicinity? No, that couldn't be. He's been fighting this guy for almost 30 minutes now. Wait, what if one of his other friends, from his rookie years, are somehow close by? Well, it didn't really matter. They never actually thought him as a friend, so what does it matter? Orochimaru looked at him closely, contemplating whether or not he should have the curse seal. He did show great stamina and chakra, creating so many Kage Bunshins. He showed he could make wise choices, sacrificing his life for his friends so they could get away. He showed he could come up with various battle strategies in difficult situations. He also showed great taijutsu skills when using his Kage Bunshins. This kid is close to beginning low Chunin level and probably never had a good sensei, seeing as he's the Kyuubi brat. Orochimaru could just imagine how strong this boy could become if he had a good sensei. A strong sensei, yes, this boy was perfect for the curse seal. While being the jailer of the Kyuubi no Yoko, and living in Konoha, will better help him get the boy. Seeing as Konoha's ignorant population most likely scarred the boy through his life. It was perfect. All he needed to do was push the boy to leave the village. "Boy," Naruto heard in all directions, figuring out Orochimaru was projecting his voice everywhere. "Why stay in this village?" Naruto didn't know what the man was doing, but at least it slightly delayed his inevitable end, because I have people here to protect. "Oh, like who?" "My friends," Naruto said slightly lower in tone, this being a sensitive subject. "What friends? You're the Kyuubi no Yoko." Naruto didn't pay any attention to the fact that he knew what was inside him. "I'm not the Kyuubi. I'm just the jailer." "That's right, you're not the Kyuubi. Then why does everyone see you as it?" "Because." Naruto wanted to say why, but he just couldn't. He couldn't talk about his village like that. "Because what?" "Because they're ignorant." And there it was. Naruto had finally lowered his mask for once, showing the anger that lay underneath that fake rouge. "That's right, they are. So why not come with me, and I'll train you, so one day you and me can come back and destroy Konoha." "No," Naruto screamed, his mask going back on. "I will protect this village in which my friends live." "Oh, and what kind of companions just leave their friend to die?" "It might have been your choice to stay behind, but they were the ones that listened and left. If my friend ordered me to escape, knowing he would not survive, I'd stay and die beside him." The snake said, lying. "So what, I still have other people." Naruto said. He could feel the sides of his eyes starting to water. "Like who?" "Old man Sarutobi." Naruto called out. "Oh, what has the old man ever done for you?" "He's given me a place to live." Naruto yelled out, defending the old Hokage. "Has he given you a family?" "The Hokage can only do so much." Naruto said, trying to come up with something to say. "No, the Hokage is the leader of the village. He can do anything he wants. He could have easily just adopted you himself. but no, he just gave you an apartment void of love and kindness. You're wrong, Naruto said through watery eyes. Am I? Or is it you just don't want to believe me, and listen to your inner self? Just, shut up, Naruto screamed, not wanting to listen to this man anymore. I'm sorry my friends, but it looks like I'll have to use it. Orochimaru watched as Naruto started to smirk, while wiping away the tears that were once descending his cheeks. Naruto, with the same fierce look he'd been giving Orochimaru throughout their fight, raised his right hand, positioning it over his heart. I don't know or care where you are, you snake freak. But it doesn't matter. You see, a couple months ago, I stole the scroll of sealing which contains many forbidden jutsus. I was fooled into thinking that if I learned one, I could become a genin. So I took the scroll to a hidden place I once stumbled upon, and learned the first jutsu in the scroll, which was the Kage Bunshin. Orochimaru could see the smirk on the boy's face growing larger. After learning the first technique, I was about to return the scroll when I accidentally bumped it, making it open, showing the second technique within. I never really got all the details on how to use it, but I've actually created a variation of it. This technique was called Bunshin Bakuha, Shadow Clone Explosion, and my variation, which I'm about to show you. Naruto then clasped his right hand hard against the place over his heart, sending large quantities of chakra to his heart, is called Daijiga Bakuha, Great Self-Explosion, and using all his might, he completely stopped the flow of chakra from entering his heart, causing a mass eruption within. And with a final scream, Naruto exploded, blasting away anything within a kilometer radius of their current position, leaving nothing but ash and the charred ground underneath. What was that? Sakura asked, finally starting to calm down about how they left Naruto behind. She was kind of worried seeing as the explosion was right in the vicinity of where Naruto was fighting the guy. I don't know, Sasuke answered, looking for some fish in the river they were near. Please Naruto, be okay. Sakura thought to herself, watching the smoke from the blast rising high into the sky, knowing it would rain cats and dogs soon as the clouds above started to turn pitch black. Naruto's eyes blinked tiredly, trying to awaken from his unconscious state. What? He thought to himself, falling back onto his rump, looking at his right hand. He wasn't dead? That's impossible, that jutsu should have killed him. Naruto looked around. Yeah, it was the same area he was in. Only now the only thing he saw was charred earth and small piles of ash in which the trees used to lay. A pale-looking thing then caught the side of his eyes. Looking over, he saw something with many folds. With much effort, Naruto pushed himself up and walked to the weird-looking thing. When close, he saw that it was the skin of that grass nin, like he'd actually shed himself, like a snake. The entire right side of the skin was missing the edges, being charred, showing he was hit by the jutsu. That was very impressive. Naruto heard behind him, twisting in the air as he jumped forward, away from the voice. He laid his eyes on this new version of Orochimaru. This Orochimaru was very pale, his skin almost being complete white. He had the eyes of a dangerous snake, the irises being yellow with slit pupils. His eyelids were covered in a light purple color, where they ran down the sides of his nostril in a pointed fashion. His dark hair ran down to the top section of his back. He was wearing a tan shirt, with black around the collar. Under the tan shirt was a tight black long-sleeved shirt. Large purple rope wrapped around the man's waist being tied in the back, to look like a knot. From his waist down he wore normal ninja attire. How am I alive? Naruto asked, taking a step back, just missing the exoskeleton of Orochimaru's old skin. Lucky for you, I was fast enough to come in and use my Fusokufuri no Jutsu, neutral technique, to cancel the jutsu at the same time you exploded. This effectively kept you alive, but did not stop your jutsu's destructive power. Then how are you still alive? Naruto asked. Easy, I used my Taisha Atogama no Jutsu, regeneration replacement technique, Orochimaru said, getting a raised eyebrow from Naruto. It lets me rejuvenate myself, or something like that. What a jutsu? Naruto said quietly, not believing there was such a strong technique on Earth. Please, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Orochimaru said evilly, raising his right hand up high, looking at the palm of his hand. There are much more jutsus to learn in this world. Orochimaru's eyes slowly looked down to the boy who was still holding his battle position, Orochimaru's hand still holding high. With a devilish smile he lowered his hand to be even with the boy, and you could help me. Naruto looked at the man's hand for a couple of seconds before slapping it away, like I'd ever join someone like you. Orochimaru then chuckled lightly, using his left hand to hold his right elbow, so he could lay his chin on the back of his right hand. You may deny me now, Uzumaki Naruto, but I can clearly see the inner you. I can see the person that's been sealed by this mask you wear. And soon it will come off, and you'll want revenge upon this village you once cared so much for. And when that happens, I'll take you as my student, and teach you everything I know. For now there's a special present I have to give you. Orochimaru then punched Naruto in his solar plexus, completely knocking him unconscious. Grabbing Naruto by the shoulders so he wouldn't fall onto the ground, he heaved him over his shoulders and used Shunshin, body flicker, to get away, knowing full well this was the best choice for the curse seal. To think this boy could have created such a technique like that. It's undoubtedly S-rank due to its requirements. But to have created such a technique on top of knowing both Kage Bunshin and Taju Kage Bunshin, B and A rank jutsus. This boy has more talent than even me, it's just so untouched. This village is just a horde of imbeciles and fools. Naruto faintly tried to open his eyes taking slower than they usually do to adjust to the scenario around him. He must have been in a whole different area than where he last was, seeing as there was no place that was marked by burned or battle-scorned land nearby. Looking to his left he saw a clear river quietly flowing by. He was very thirsty. Getting 2 feet under him, Naruto stood up only to fall back down on his butt. Naruto didn't know what just happened. All of a sudden his legs felt like rubber and he couldn't help but fall back down. Why was he so tired? It then dawned on Naruto that he'd just been fighting that Orochimaru man and was knocked out. Using all the energy he had, Naruto spun around, now standing up, but crouching on his legs and left hand. The right hovering over his kunai holster just in case Orochimaru was still nearby. Sensing nothing for a while off, he calmed down. Naruto couldn't help but collapse at that instant, whatever energy he had from the short nap now gone. Looking back over to the river, Naruto crawled closer. Once he was a foot away, Naruto reached forward, receiving a massive bout of pain shot throughout his entire body. Naruto didn't know what was going on, but he wasn't able to move, the pain still constant within his body. Although most of the pain he was receiving seemed to originate from his left shoulder. Using anything he had within to pull himself just a few inches further to the river, he looked in its reflection. Nothing out of the ordinary. Seeing as there was nothing wrong, he decided to take a look at his left shoulder. Pulling his white collar and the black shirt he had underneath the jacket down, he saw 3 black comma-like figures cycling each other. What on God's earth is that? Oh, what does it matter? Naruto thought to himself, falling down onto his back. Forgetting about the mark on his neck and the solemn need for water, I just need to sleep. Seems like we're finally here, Sasuke said quietly, still depressed about his rival's diversion of death. Yeah, Sakura agreed, not caring about the fact that they had finally made it to the tower in the middle of the forest. Sakura still had the dry tear marks down her cheeks, as she had been crying for some while. Then I'll see you two inside? Yakushi Kabuto asked, looking over to the dejected group of ninja as his own teammates came into view. Yeah, the two said in monotone unison. Kabuto didn't want to hang around them anymore, due to their gloominess, as he walked through the doors with his companions. He had already helped them get an Earth and Heaven scroll, what more could he give? Kabuto was about to open the scrolls when he noticed his snake master leaning against the wall. Orochimaru-sama, the information regarding Uchiha Sasuke has decreased. He seemed to be very depressed for some reason, and I haven't really seen his skills that much. Also, I didn't detect the curse seal on him. Orochimaru-sama? The snake Sanin wasn't paying attention, his mind still wondering about the boy with the new curse seal. Forget about the Uchiha? Orochimaru ordered, surprising Kabuto. What, why? The sound spy asked, not believing what he was hearing. After all the trouble dealing with Itachi down to his little brother Sasuke, always talking about holding the Sharingan within his grasp. Why would he change his mind all of a sudden? What of the Kyuubi brat? Orochimaru asked, not listening to his servant's question. He was hoping Kabuto could give him some information about the boy, not like before when he called the boy talentless. Although he wasn't quite sure whether or not Naruto had made it back to his team, he did try to place the boy as close as he could without being detected by the two disheartened genin. he wasn't with his group for some reason. I thought that's why the girl and Sasuke-kun seemed so down in the dumps. But what could you possibly gain from him? The glass-wearing man asked, not understanding his master's plan. Orochimaru jadedly let out a sigh, knowing his subordinate had no more information on the Jinchuriki. Nothing at all, Kabuto, nothing whatsoever. Man, was Naruto lucky. Well, at first it didn't seem so, seeing as he had just woke up from his 30-minute nap and learned that the end of the second part of the Chunin exams were about to close in an hour, by that of a group of mist genin. Though the fact that he was close to the tower that marked the end of the exam, and that the group of genin had both a heaven and earth scroll, was just magnificent. So just in case his two teammates failed in getting one of the scrolls, he could come in to save the day. The last good thing was the fact that that same group passing him was exceedingly gullible, falling into a self-springing kunai trap quite easily. I guess one gets very careless when in a hurry. Taking the two scrolls from the fallen corpses and using whatever he had within to push forward, Naruto walked closer to that of his destination. Sasuke and Sakura had just entered an empty room, thinking it was the end of the second exam. All they saw was a scroll hanging against the wall. Sakura walked closer to the scroll, not getting what it meant. She turned to her teammate. Sakura had to stop, chalking up a little, still not used to using the singular term. I don't get what this scroll is saying, something about heaven and earth. The scroll seems to be missing different parts of itself. We probably have to open the two scrolls, Sasuke said nonchalantly, like he'd done this before, but in reality just didn't feel like going into great description. Oh, she said, for the first time not caring that Sasuke had made another brilliant observation. Unraveling the two scrolls, a puff of smoke like a summoning happened. Amino Iruka, their old academy teacher, came into existence. With a wide smile he greeted his former students. Congratulations, you three passed the second exam. Sakura and Sasuke had stunned faces, not know what was going on, but soon looked downcast hearing him say, 3. Iruka wondered why they looked so down when he had just blurted out that they had passed, but he soon realized what was missing. Where was the outburst of how good he did? Where was the cry of how good he was? Where was the roar of how he was going to become Hokage? Where the hell was Naruto? Where's Naruto, guys? The man with a scar across his nose asked, dreading what their answer might be. Sakura looked to the right, not wanting to look at her old teacher's expression as she told him what happened. Sakura couldn't help but hug herself as salty droplets of water cascaded down her cheeks. Naruto sacrificed himself to let us escape from this powerful ninja. Iruka couldn't believe what he was hearing. There was no way Naruto could die, not before becoming Hokage. What about his dream, his ambition, and his way of the ninja? Looking to his right, Iruka saw Sasuke looking at the ground, not wanting to look at his sensei's staggered face, and now he knew this no-sick trick. The boy that was like his little brother was gone. Uzumaki Naruto was dead. Well, I might as well get you guys up to the third exam before the Hokage beings his instructions, come on. Iruka said, suddenly feeling sad and depressed, waving for them to follow, not telling them the whole thing about how earth symbolized the body and how heaven symbolized mental strength. Hey Sakura, listen to me, Sasuke said, coming up from behind Sakura, grabbing her wrist gently. I know that because Naruto is gone it's going to be hard for us seeing as it's just the two of us. But I promised Naruto I would protect you with my life, and that's what I intend to do. So, instead of moping around, we need to keep pushing forward and become strong, got it? Sakura nodded, a new resolve coming over her. A smile that seemed like it had never returned came upon her face, right? Sasuke then did something that shocked her. He grabbed her hand lightly, but tight enough that it wouldn't slip out. For the first time in her life she saw Sasuke truly smile. Come on, he said softly, following Iruka up the stairs, never once letting go of her hand. Kabuto was slowly trying to find out why Orochimaru didn't give the Uchiha the Curse Seal and why he wanted to know so much about the Jinchuriki boy known as Naruto. At first he thought it was because Orochimaru gave the Uzumaki the Curse Seal, but that was impossible. Well, more like why would he? He went through the different stories of Team 7 with Orochimaru before the exams start. Haruno Sakura was the only one in her family to be a ninja and had hardly, if any, ninja talent. Uzumaki Naruto had absolutely no talent either, being dead last in his class. The only thing he had working for him was the Kyuubi and he couldn't even control it. While Uchiha Sasuke had enough talent to fill out for his teammates, had the Sharingan, and graduated first in his class. Could he really have chosen Naruto over Sasuke? What? Kakashi asked, as Iruka told him what happened to Naruto. Iruka was right behind Kakashi, overlooking the remaining genin of the Chunin exams as the Hokage continued his short speech about why the Chunin exams were taking place. It's true, they told me just a couple minutes ago. Iruka said, having a monotone look about him, not changing from the impassive face he was holding. I see, thank you. Kakashi said quietly as Iruka walked behind the lined-up Jonin back to his spot. Kakashi looked to his squad that was now one less, thinking about how their loss would affect them in the near future. He watched all the groups consisting of 3 genin closely, seeming to read each one of them and thinking how lucky they were that they haven't gone through the loss of one of their teammates like Team 7 has. The wheel of time seemed to slow down as he viewed his lined-up team. Now, without the energetic form of a little orange boy, it'll be very dull at practice for all of them. Kakashi could feel Guy's youthful eyes on him. He was very grateful that Guy was serious when he wanted to, and wasn't talking. Be it saying how Guy had told him his team wasn't ready, or be it encouraging words of consolation. This was a reason why Guy was his greatest rival and greatest friend even though Kakashi never acted like it. On the other side of the rows of Jonin, one disguised Orochimaru was seething. How could they do such a thing? He jammed it into Anko's mind, in their quarrel just an hour ago, that if they even touched Naruto with the intent of taking him out of the Chunin exams he'd bring hell upon Konoha and destroy it. Maybe he wasn't clear enough when he referred to Naruto during their encounter, always saying how he holds something very important. Although it was a bad idea to not give them a name, he didn't care, because he knew Anko would try and stop him from competing in the match. Anko herself was silently biting on her fingernails lightly, still thinking on who Orochimaru could have given the curse seal. None of them seemed to be in pain, other than the soreness and tiredness they got through the exam itself. Damn it, why didn't Orochimaru give them a name? This was so frustrating. First she feels her curse mark react, confusing her as to why. Then she learns Orochimaru is back and is taking part of the Chunin exams in some diabolical ploy to destroy Konoha. After that she actually encounters him in the Forest of Death and is ready to sacrifice herself in order to kill him. Turns out when she's about to sacrifice her life he turns into mud, leaving her for dead, and if it wasn't for the Anbu, she would have. Anko kept her mind off that, trying to find the one placed with that horrid curse. As if destiny slapped her in the face, everyone in the arena crooked their heads to the uproar coming from the entrance. Let go of me, you jackasses. A boy with blonde hair and cerulean eyes complained, indefatigably dragging 5 Chunin onward, wanting to advance in the exam so he could compete against other strong opponents. Come on already, I got the 2 damn scrolls, what more do I need to pass? We're sorry, but we've told you already. You're too late, the second exams are already over. One of the Chunin cried, still holding onto Naruto's right leg tightly, trying to stop him from going further, but too little avail. They had to stop anyone that entered without the requirements, but they were prohibited from using lethal means due to the Hokage's orders. I probably would have made it up in time if you all didn't decide to spring on me, and make me drag all your asses up 5 stories. Naruto howled back, dragging them even further into the small showground. Naruto? Sakura said, seeming to tremble in place. He was alive, all that worry and regret for nothing. It felt as if a ton of weight just came off her shoulders as she watched him do his usual rebellious thing as he bickered some more with the Chunin clutching onto him. Sakura turned to Sasuke and was surprised by his reaction. This was the first time she saw him so shocked. His eyes were bugged out, not believing what was before him. His best friend and rival, who was thought to be dead, was standing in front of them. Ahem, the Sandaime cleared his throat, getting everyone's attention. Mind explaining to me, what on earth is going on? All 5 Chunin who were once compressed around Naruto jumped into a straight line, each one bowing their heads. We're sorry Hokage-sama, but this kid entered without reaching the requirements you set for use, said the Chunin in the very middle of the lineup. The hell are you talking about? I have the 2 scrolls right fucking here. Naruto roared, pointing to the 2 scrolls in his left hand, not caring about his foul language, for these Chunin were becoming really irritating. Naruto, the Uzumaki heard from afar. Turning to the voice's origin he saw a bustle of pink and black hair. Looking down a little he spotted Sasuke and Sakura, his teammates, waving to him. Putting a weary smile he walked over to his teammates. "I'm so relieved you're okay." Sakura then did something that shocked the entire Rookie 9, she hugged him. Him, the dead last in the academy and the one said to have no talent at all. Naruto couldn't help but wonder why his chest felt wet all of a sudden. But once Sakura pulled back he understood. She was crying tears of joy. She thought her teammate, was dead. Naruto then felt someone's hand pat itself on his shoulder. Turning his head he saw Sasuke smiling. "I'm glad you're okay," he said, nicely glad that they were a whole team again. The Sandaime watched Naruto as he reunited with his teammates. Sarutobi knew all along Naruto was not with his squad, and even though he wanted to, he wasn't allowed to find out what happened to Naruto due to him having to give the remaining genin the speech about the hidden villages' alliances. Looking at Naruto closely he noticed Naruto would occasionally grab the left side of his shoulder, flinching in pain as he did so. It then hit the old man as to who Orochimaru possibly gave the curse seal. He and Anko were trying to figure who it might have been, but could it really be Naruto of all people? What could Orochimaru possibly want Naruto for the Kyuubi? Remembering the words Anko had told him, Orochimaru said, "He holds something of great importance." He wanted to stop the exams right there and put Naruto under great surveillance. But he couldn't do that, he had to think of Naruto's well-being. Even if that was the right thing to do, he couldn't. He cared for the boy like a son. So doing what he had to, he dismissed the 5 Chunin that were still standing in the same position as they were before. A Junin, wearing his headband like a hat so the top of his hair was patted down, appeared in front of the lined-up genin. Quieting down they looked at him questionably. Cough, cough. Should we start the preliminaries now? Hokage-sama cough, cough, the ninja asked, turning to face the village's leader. The Hokage nodded his head in reply, "Yes, Hayate." Excuse me," Yamanaka Ino said, raising her hand, to get Hayate's attention. Looking at his small clipboard he replied, "Yes, cough, cough." Yamanaka Ino, "What are these preliminaries?" "You see, cough, cough, this is the first time we've had so many competitors, so, cough, cough, we need to narrow down the numbers before we go to the 3rd exam." "Oh, okay, cough, cough, okay, good. Now that that's done, I like for you all to forward your attention to the big monitor behind me." Turning around he pointed to the monitor that just appeared behind a hidden wall panel. "Cough, cough, these matches will be one-on-one and will begin right away, so if there is anyone that does not want to fight you can leave now. Cough, cough." Some were shocked by what he had just said. Why would any of them quit after coming so far? Hayate, seeing that no one wanted to quit, turned back to the monitor. "Well, let's begin." Cough. Different names flew by. The monitor decided who will face who, until 2 names came up. Yakushi Kabuto versus Uzumaki Naruto. Fuck me, Naruto thought. Why did he have to be the first to compete? He couldn't have a little time to rest. I couldn't have asked for a better opponent. Kabuto thought to himself, Naruto being the only reason he had not quit. Cough, cough, the 2 combatants please stay here. The rest make your way up the platforms, Hayate said, getting everyone to leave the lower arena so the 2 could have bigger room to fight. Naruto noticed that Kakashi walked a bit slower as he came behind Naruto. "I'm glad you're alright," he whispered quietly. "Thanks," Naruto said, looking at the back of his sensei as he walked away. "Now do either of you have anything to say?" Cough, cough. Getting no answer, it was apparent they didn't, so with an intake of air Hayate called out, "Fight!" The silhouette of a short boy sauntered the corridors of an ominous and gloomy sewer system. He halted when faced with a choice of crossroads, one to the left, one to the right, and one forward. Other than the middle and left one, the right held a portentous crimson radiance. The boy, turning to the right, scaled the narrow hallway. Coming to an abrupt stop, he was faced with a large jail cell, holding none other than the Kyuubi no Yoko, fiercest of the 9 great demons. The young teen could easily taste the malicious bloodlust that was detained within rancid obscurity just behind those penitentiary bars. 2 slit, crimson eyes lit up as the boy walked closer to the bars that held the greatest Biju. The Kyuubi's eyes held much confusion and bewilderment as to the boy's arrival. "How is it you're here before me?" the beast asked through the darkness that would forever surround him. "Well, it is my mind," the blond boy said, aiming one of his most famous smiles to the Kyuubi, as he came to an immediate halt in the very middle of the sewage room. The Kyuubi, not even caring about the puny boy's formality to smile, gave the boy a quick look over, watching his moves closely. Still, that's not even relevant to the fact you've never once before entered here. I'm the only one that can bring you here, so how is it you're standing before me? Easy, because I may sleep. Naruto countered, his smile never fading. What? I don't sense the night. I perceive daytime outside these walls. The Kyuubi looked down into the murky sewage water below. The water started to ripple as his ferocious gaze pounced on its surface. Out of the water's facade came an image of Naruto sleeping soundly on his twin mattress. But that didn't convince him. Naruto could have easily created a fake image. So, being his prudent self, he moved the image around, hoping to find even the slightest mistake in the boy's feeble projection. The boy was Naruto after all, the clumsiest specimen the Kyuubi had ever seen. So if Naruto really created this reflection, he'd find a mistake. Looking around the apartment of the illustration, Kyuubi spotted the boy's nightstand that was next to his bed. The nightstand held a lamp and the group photo of him and Team 7, right after completing the dreaded belt test that their mentor, Hitaki Kakashi, had given them. Naruto was giving the Uchiha a grimace as he had his usual attire on. That god-awful orange and blue jacket with orange pants, nothing odd there. Next was the Haruno, who had her regular outfit on, nothing strange there. The Uchiha wore his usual garments as well, giving Naruto a taunting look to egg him on, nothing odd there either. Then their sensei, who wore the standard Junin clothing. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the picture. Looking further around the room, he speckled the collection of trash scattered all over the room. Nothing odd with all the crap on the floor. Moving the image to the window, he viewed the bright full moon basking in its warm glow. He looked through his 9,000 years of knowledge to learn if it was the day of full moon, and it was. Looking to the constellations around the moon, he found every star in place. There was no way Naruto's reckless self knew where each and every star should be placed. This was no illusion. The Kyuubi gave a sigh of defeat behind his jail bars, looking down at the still smiling boy. I guess you're right, but why have you come? There's no point in talking, I want nothing to do with you. Why? Naruto asked curiously, not being fazed in the slightest with the Kyuubi's hostility. I hold much abhorrence for you, Kyuubi said, not in the least caring about what he says. Oh, and abhorrence means the act of hate or loathe, stupid. Naruto's demeanor did not change in the slightest at the Kyuubi's remark. I don't think you hate me. Well, then you're even more stupid than you look, the Kyuubi stated, throwing another insult his way. Naruto merely shrugged it off, his smile not fading. I think you just hate this place in which you're enslaved. And you're fueling all your anger and hate at me. TCH, think what you'd like. I still hate you, the Kyuubi declared, not letting the boy have the last say in it. Fine, hate me, but you'll still talk to me, right? The soon-to-be 13-year-old asked. The Kyuubi bellowed out a sigh, giving into the boy's determination. Fine, what do you want to know? I'd like to know what you did before you ever became sealed within me. Naruto asked, his smile seemingly lighting up the entire room. Why do you want to know about that? The Kyuubi questioned. Why do I want to know about anything I ask? He countered. The Kyuubi gave another sigh, not wanting to deal with his little shenanigans. Very well. I was created by a mere merge of different types of natural chakra approximately 8,988 years before the first human with ninja powers, the Rikudo Sennin, 6 realms sage, was born. That's about 200 years before you were born. Wait, so you're 9,188 years old? The 12-year-old asked. 9,200 to be precise, the Kyuubi stated before going back to the matter at hand. Anyway, I was the first Biju to ever be born. So for 1,000 years I roamed the earth eating the helpless people born on it, looking for something to fight or befriend. Then, on my 1000th birthday, the Hachibi, 8-tailed demon, was created. The Hachibi luckily was an herbivore, seeing as he was half bull half octopus, so he wasn't going to be taking any of my prey. We met once, a couple hundred years after he was born. He thought he could defeat me. He was proven wrong when I ripped his throat out. I was contemplating on whether or not I should eat him, seeing as I'm a carnivore. But lucky for him I had had my fill after an attack on a small village previous to his attack on me. Hold up, how was he not already dead from you ripping his throat out? The young man asked, looking interested in the Kyuubi's stories. Fool, no Biju can be truly killed. We are just creations of mere chakra. The Kyuubi said, insulting the boy yet again. After that incident he went away for a while to heal his wounds. Couple hundred years later the Shichibi was created. I think the thing was a seven-tailed badger, but who the hell knows, I never met it. So over thousands of years the Biju started to be born, each one having one less tail as it went down the list, until finally the last Biju was born, the Shukaku. Over the many millennia a couple of them tried to defeat me, trying to show they were superior to me. I even remember when the Rokubi, Gobi, and the Nibi all teamed up to try and overpower me. But all failed in comparison to my power. I am the strongest being in the universe, and no one can deny me that right. Yeah, Naruto agreed, but his features soon changed, showing much sympathy, but I bet you never had a friend during your travels. If it hadn't been for the eternal shadows surrounding the Kyuubi, Naruto would have noticed Kyuubi's eyes slightly open in shock. The Kyuubi, getting hold of his features, shook the shock from his face. Looking down at the boy's sympathetic looks he frowned. I am the Kyuubi no Yoko. I don't need such things as friends. Still I feel sorry for all the loneliness you must have felt. Naruto said, turning around so he could head out of the Kyuubi's lair, having his fill of Kyuubi's history. Next time we talk, maybe I'll tell you a little about myself. Please, like I want to know anything about your pathetic and meaningless life. Kyuubi watched as Naruto continued to walk towards the corridor from which he entered, only shrugging at the Kyuubi's sentence, and I don't need any compassion from a boy like you. For some reason Naruto seemed to stop at that last sentence, turning with a smile. Fine, but can I tell you something real quick? The boy asked. The Kyuubi gave one last sigh at the boy's quirkiness. Fine. When I look at you, I see an auditorium of darkness filled with unlit candles, and for the longest time, it's been left alone untouched by the wondering eye. But for each time we talk, it feels like I'm lighting one of those sticks of wax. Soon the entire room that was abandoned will be filled with light, and you and I will be friends. And when that happens, Kyuubi, I'll be smiling right there with you alongside me. Naruto continued his walk into the small passage he had used to get here, leaving a stunned Kyuubi behind. When did he ever become so wise? The beast thought to himself, never once seeing Naruto talk in such a way. The nine-tailed fox watched as Naruto disappeared within the corridor he was walking through. The Kyuubi didn't know if his face was going numb or what. Because the next thing he knew, a smile was spread across his face. Naruto had quite a quarrel on his hands. First, he had almost no chakra or stamina left in his body. His whole anatomy was aching all over, the most straining area being his left shoulder. His left shoulder was holding that of the curse seal, a design that looked like three comma-like marks circling one another. Another factor to the boy's disappointment was he just carried 5 chunin up 5 flights of stairs, completely depleting whatever energy he had on his way here. But to top it off, he's the very first one to compete in a match for the preliminaries, facing someone who's took the exam 7 times. God, why must you hate me so? The young blonde pondered, his wavering eyes closing by the second. He knew if he tried to fight he'd die. He had no chakra or stamina whatsoever left within his feeble body. He didn't know how he was still awake, let alone standing up. His eyes slowly closed as he watched the man named Kabuto charge Naruto, his hands glowing with strange blue chakra. The last thing he saw was Kabuto's palm heading for his head, but for some reason it never hit as it went gliding over his head. The entire audience watched as Kabuto hurtled toward Naruto, blue chakra encasing his hands. Kabuto threw his right hand forward, aiming to grab Naruto's head, but was met with only air. Naruto had fallen to his knees, having no control over his body whatsoever. Kabuto stopped his attack, bringing his arms back to their standard position by his sides. Naruto fell forward, his limp shoulder barely keeping his upper body from falling to the ground as it settled against Kabuto's left thigh. Everyone could see the boy's eyes turn cloudy as they rolled to the back of his head, signifying his oncoming demise. What? The snake Sanin thought looking down from the upper level. Why is he dying? Elsewhere Team 7 became very concerned about their young knucklehead. Naruto, a fretful Haruno thought, looking down to her teammate. She had lost him once, and she wasn't about to lose him again. Please be okay, please. Yamanaka Ino looked over to her longtime rival, not in the least feeling for the boy that was almost dead down there. You know this is to be expected seeing as it's Naruto. Losing before it even started. Ino seemed to be forwarding this statement to Sakura, but everyone on their side of the upper level heard her, even the Sandaime. Sakura turned to her longtime rival, disgust written all over her face. She opened her mouth about to burst in rage at her once best friend's comment, but was beaten to it. "What the hell do you know, ah?" Uchiha Sasuke yelled, shocking the rest of the Rookie 9 by his livid demeanor. "You perceive so much when you know nothing of him. Don't make such assumptions when you know so little." Ino could only be taken aback by Sasuke's protest, Sasuke-kun. Kakashi slightly smirked under his masked face. Seems he's really changed in a good way throughout this exam's ordeal. "Well, it is to be expected that Naruto'd lose this match," said none other than Hitaki Kakashi, shocking his own students along with the Sandaime as to his statement. "Look at all the cuts covering his body. He looks like he should have been dead long ago due to loss of blood." At that point almost everyone, some had already known, noticed the physical features that covered the boy's young body. Naruto's body was literally coated with cuts of all shapes and sizes, some small and some large. His outer orange jacket was completely shredded and ripped, leaving large holes that revealed the black shirt he wore underneath. Even the shirt itself had cuts in it, showing the bare skin that had been maimed. Not only that, but it seemed like there were scars left there from previous injuries, leaving only little white lines as to where the cuts were once held. Naruto himself also seemed a little pale, probably from lack of water or food if not both. Everyone watched as Kabuto leaned down and grabbed a handful of Naruto's white collar, pulling him off his feet to eye level. Naruto's eyes were barely cracked open, the whites of his eyes being the only thing visible from the bottom of the eyelids. He wasn't dead seeing as he was still breathing, but barely, his breathing becoming slower every second signifying he was on the verge of death. Kabuto didn't know why Orochimaru wanted this boy so badly, he didn't seem that special. Kabuto looked to the examiner, Gekko Hayate, before nodding to the unconscious boy to indicate that he was done. "Well, cough, cough, seeing as Uzumaki Naruto cannot continue, the winner is." "No," Sasuke yelled, looking like he was about to jump over the very bars that protected him from falling below. "What the hell are you doing, dope? You came all this way just to lose in the first match of the preliminaries. You defeated Haku, the boy that I couldn't even compare to. You fought that Orochimaru man when I was just standing there shaking in fear by his mere presence." Most seasoned ninja that had known about the rogue Sannin slightly gasped. Already knowing Orochimaru was there in Konoha, but the fact that Naruto had actually fought the man of such power and survived, Naruto. Sasuke seemed to hesitate at that point, apparently not wanting to say something, but said it anyway, "I'll admit it. You're stronger than me." Mostly everyone that had known anything about the two genin and their records in the Ninja Academy went wide-eyed at his proclamation. "And I'll be damned if you're just going to go lose to some four-eyed freak like him. So wake up, and fucking fight." Everyone seemed to fall silent after the boy's rant about Naruto's accomplishments. Everyone's eyes slowly turned toward the hung-up youngster. His limp body not even moving to the Uchiha's outcry. Almost out of nowhere a small sizzling sound was heard throughout the arena. Flame-like red marks, coming from Naruto's left shoulder, started to cover the left side of the boy's face. "That can't be," thought that of Kakashi and the Sandaime, not believing what they saw on the boy's face. The curse seal," Kabuto stammered, not believing what was in front of him. The red-like marks seemed to vanish, leaving in their place black flame-like marks covering the left side of Naruto's upper body. Naruto's face was nonetheless still hanging back due to his unconscious form. But that's when it happened. His eyes shot open, the once cerulean blue, now crimson red, accompanied by slit toothpick-sized pupils. Naruto's blood-red eyes rolled down, his motionless expression still facing the ceiling, as his eyes engaged Kabuto's. Naruto's fingertips on both hands embedded themselves into the two sides of Kabuto's forearm muscles, causing a pulsing sensation through his entire right arm. But it didn't end there. Naruto took his right hand's fingertips out of the teen's skin and brought his index and middle finger down into the top part of his forearm, just behind the wrist, cutting his flexor decitorum superficialis muscle. Kabuto was about to let go of Naruto, seeing as his entire right arm was going limp, but unlucky for him, he wasn't fast enough. Naruto had taken his bloody fingertips out of Kabuto's forearm and did a mid-air spin kick to Kabuto's abdomen, sending the older teen into the wall across the arena, an outline of rubble surrounding him, showing he had created an imprint in the wall behind him. Naruto landed softly on the ground, the former black flame marks now red again as they stretched further around his body, coming to a stop once the marks were fully covering his entire anatomy. Naruto's hair then started to whip around violently as purple and red chakra encircled him. Naruto's jacket was forcefully ripped out of his pants due to the mere velocity at which the chakra was moving. The zipper holding his jacket together also couldn't help but rip open due to its pressure, revealing the already tattered black t-shirt he wore underneath. As the wind died down, everyone noticed Naruto's features starting to change. Naruto bent down, feeling his canine teeth grow bigger and sharper due to the demonic red chakra surrounding him. His 3mm-sized whisker marks on his cheeks becoming full and darkly defined. His trimmed fingernails growing out about an inch as they became sharper, changing into those of claws. And his hair that grew about 2 inches, the already loose Konoha headband protector unraveling from his head and falling to the ground with a clang. All fell silent as Naruto's body straightened itself out, the chakra slightly dying down. Naruto stretched his arms out, his clawed hands clasping into fists. Ah ha 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 ha. The changed boy laughed out loud, as the 2 different chakras roared again in a blast of energy, blowing the rubble and anything around away. I'm Free. The altered form of Naruto roared, his demonic features scaring some of the genin on the upper levels. What scared most of them though was the fact that his voice had deepened by miles. None of them had thought a voice could get so low and raspy. If you watch the Naruto Japanese anime, then please think of Kakuzu's voice, because that's what I'm aiming for. The Hokage and some of his older Junin were startled by what Naruto had said, not the fact that Naruto had gained such a low voice, but because he was a Jinchuriki and held the Kyuubi no Yoko. Could that mean the beast had escaped? No, if it did, the thing wouldn't still be in the boy's body. They all had to just sit a watch. Naruto seemed to calm down a little now that he was fully aware of his surroundings. The fierce red and purple chakra that surrounded him dimmed down, leaving him with the curse seal raveled around him. Kabuto looked up from his position against the wall, still sticking into the cement surface. He looked to his bloody right arm, spotting the 4 finger-sized puncture marks that were on each side of his forearm and the 2 on the top of it. He pierced my flexor carpi ulnaris and brachialis muscles, while cutting my flexor decitorum superficialis muscle in the same moment. He knew where and what he was hitting. Only a medical nin of my caliber or a high-ranked hunter nin could know such things, so how is it he knows this? The sound spy thought, looking to his severely punctured arm, knowing he couldn't use it for quite a while even if he were to use his Inu Shometsu, secret healing injury destruction. Not only that, but that kick was like something he'd never felt before. If what Orochimaru had once described was true about his old teammate's strength, then that boy's was at least close to Tsunade's strength, if not the same. Kabuto turned his attention to said blonde, watching his movements closely as his outgrown hair cast a shadow over his eyes. Kabuto found it strange that Naruto smirked as he took a step forward, his foot planting itself on the boy's fallen headband. Like the very fact it was disgracing the name of Konoha made him happy. Naruto continued his walk, completely ignoring that his headband was still on the ground, as he stood in the middle of the arena. Naruto looked dead straight into Kabuto's eyes, his crimson eyes striking terror into his heart as he witnessed himself being slaughtered in front of this monster. That little devil stole my technique, thought an impressed Orochimaru, watching as his #1 assistant fall to this boy's might. I never would have thought his inner self would have such power, it's wonderful. And here I thought that kick killed you, the deep-voiced Naruto said, awaking Kabuto from his panic-stricken trance. Kabuto shook his head back and forth, getting a hold of his surroundings and what was happening. Naruto raised his hands, making measly blurs at the immense speed he was doing hand seals. Putting his hands horizontally parallel to each other, the boy whispered something ominously, something only Kabuto and Hayate could hear, Abayo, goodbye. Outstretching his hands, almost looking like he was giving Kabuto a Kamehameha, Naruto yelled, Fuuten. Kami Oroshi, wind release. Godly wind from the mountains. sending a spiraling current of wind crashing his way. Due to the jutsu's wind natural affinity, it couldn't help but pick up small pieces of the tile underneath. Kabuto was about to flip to his right but remembered the fatal condition his limp arm was in. So, making a stop in the direction he was going to go, Kabuto turned and flipped to the left. The vortex of wind crashing into the body-imprinted wall Kabuto had just been. Looking across the battle arena to the now calm arm-crossed Naruto, the jutsu now gone, Kabuto couldn't help but contemplate his odds. Kabuto put on one of his infamous fake smiles as he raised his left hand. "I give up," Kabuto stated calmly, shocking some of the people of the upper level. "There's no point in me to continue. This person is not the Naruto that everyone knew moments ago. This Naruto is someone dark and vile, someone I can't hope to beat." "Very well, cough, cough." Hayate raised his left hand, bringing it down so it was pointing at Naruto, winner, Uzumaki Naruto. Not surprisingly, there were no cheers. The only ones willing to cheer were still shocked by the boy's transformation. Naruto had not yet got rid of the curse seal as Kabuto walked towards Naruto. Kabuto extended his left hand, in an approach to show friendship as the Sandaime felt something menacing. Oh no, Naruto wore a deep frown as he watched the boy's hand extend toward him. Looking up, he saw right through the fake smile the glass-wearing man made. Naruto put on a smile, much to the relief of his old classmates, but the Junin however could see right through that wicked smile. Slapping the hand away, Naruto crushed his hand wrist deep into Kabuto's stomach, sending him flying back. Kabuto spat out a large quantity of blood at the boy's strike. This strength was without a doubt as strong as or even stronger than that of the slug Sannin, Tsunade. Naruto charged Kabuto yet again, right arm cocked back for another monster blow. "We're not done until you're dead." Naruto would have continued but was stopped as the four Junin senseis had him tightly secured. Guy had him in a headlock. Kurenai had her entire body crouched down right into front of him, telling him not to continue. Asuma held Naruto's left arm tightly, just in case he tried to use his left to get free. Last, Naruto's sensei, Kakashi, held the fist that was headed straight for Kabuto's defenseless body. Kakashi was wondering why the fist he had just stopped was so powerful, but that played no role in what he was really thinking. Looking into his student's eyes, he couldn't help but see the resemblance he held to that of the snake Sannin, Orochimaru. His eyes held frightening and vile power, something that if controlled, could destroy everything. "What are you doing, Naruto?" Kakashi yelled, not believing this was the same happy and fun student he knew when they first met. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I can." Naruto looked right into his sensei's eyes as an even bigger depraved smile came to his face. "And do you actually think that the likes of you can stop me?" Kakashi didn't know how, but he felt as if Naruto was actually pushing him back. The four Junin were shocked as they noticed Naruto's body start to inch forward, drawing even closer to the boy they were trying so hard to protect. Even when they used some force to restrain him, it only acted as a slight postponement in his trail. "Naruto!" The decrepit voice of Sarutobi Hiruzen called out, stopping the genin in his tracks. "Stop this immediately." Hiruzen now recognized where he had once heard this voice, remembering that day brought a vast weight of guilt into his stomach. This darker Naruto looked back, over the Junin, to the old man. Giving him a sly smile, Naruto asked back, "Why should I, you old bastard?" Naruto yelled back, shocking everyone that knew of the friendship he and the Sandaime held. What was this? This was no Naruto they all knew. Sakura was looking down at her teammate, not believing what she was looking at. This was not the Naruto she knew. For the longest time Sakura had only thought of Naruto as a nuisance and an idiot that got in her way with Sasuke-kun. But ever since they got back from the mission to the wave, it's been different, especially since the start of the Chunin exams. When they were taking the first exam with Ibiki and he told them the consequences if they were to get the 10th question wrong, she was about to raise her hand to protect Naruto from that dreadful consequence if he were to get it wrong. Then when she lost Naruto to that Orochimaru man, she didn't know what she was going to do. She wanted to die right there, wanting to meet him in the afterlife. Even when Sasuke tried to comfort her with that little pep talk, she just put on a fake smile when on the inside it hadn't changed one bit. She wouldn't admit it out loud, but her losing Naruto was even more painful when she lost Sasuke to that Haku boy. She didn't know why she was feeling these things for the blonde. She had never liked him in the academy, so why is she starting to feel this way about him? When they had reunited just moments ago, it took everything she had to let go of Naruto. She wanted to stay within his warm and comforting grasp. She slightly blushed when she remembered her hand accidentally going into one of the open holes in Naruto's jacket and shirt in the back when she was hugging him, as she felt his smooth bare skin underneath. Looking at this new Naruto, she couldn't help but let tears fall down her cheeks at what he was doing. This was not the Naruto she knew, and she didn't like it. "Naruto!" Sakura yelled, drawing the Uzumaki's attention, as she too jumped onto the railing like her other teammate, Sasuke, was doing. "Please stop, this isn't like you." Naruto's eyes darted to Sakura's crimson meeting emerald. Naruto saw the tears that cascaded down her cheeks but gave a smile. "Shut up, you wretched bit." Naruto was cut off as he could literally hear the echo of his heartbeat throughout his body. Screaming in agony, Naruto thrashed around, getting out of the Junin's grasps as they jumped away from him. Naruto grabbed his head in distress as he felt the old Naruto gaining control. "What are you doing? This wasn't part of the deal." The boy yelled to himself. He swung his head up, almost in a ploy to get away from the pain, as he felt the presence of the curse seal recede back to normal. The immense power of violet and scarlet chakra diminishing back into nothing, as the curse seal deactivated. His stern crimson eyes morphing into those all too familiar cerulean orbs. Some of the more experienced ninja were in awe at the boy's determination. Anko herself couldn't believe what she was seeing, being so dumbfounded that she said what she was thinking. He actually controlled the curse seal on plain willpower alone. That's got to be impossible. His flapping jacket and hair soon settled down as his bangs covered his forehead softly, casting a dark shadow over his eyes. Everyone watched in what seemed horrifying slow motion as the old Uzumaki Naruto slowly fell to his knees, his mouth gaping open due to his unconscious state. Mostly everyone in the audience had their mouths wide open at the display before them. Even one Uchiha Sasuke could not help but be taken aback by his teammates' display of cruelty and careless affection for one's life. The only people that could smile at this display of heartlessness were Orochimaru, the man who couldn't be happier. Even though the kid deactivated his seal, at his soon-to-be apprentice's power, and Sabaku no Gaara. The boy, who holds the one-tailed Biju, Shukaku the Ichibi, looked onward with a sickening smile. Gaara slowly licked his lips as he watched the boy's lackadaisical act of killing one's life. If he was to kill this boy named Naruto, it would bring much pleasure to him and his existence. "Hurry up and bring in some medical nins already," yelled the son of the Sandame, Sarutobi Asuma, to the ninja standing in the doorway to the arena. Kakashi walked over to his fallen student, his white hair casting a shadow over his sorrowful eye. Naruto's broken form, unconscious on the cold tile floor. Kakashi could only think about his most vigorous student and how much he had changed. Sasuke did change for the better, but it seems it came with a price. Naruto woke up with a jolt, a cold sweat overtaking his entire body as he found himself in a bed at the hospital. He found it really odd that he had his t-shirt off and it was ice cold in the room, yet he was sweating bullets. Looking to his right, he quickly pulled his arms over his face, hiding it from the harmful sun rays. Naruto, slightly calming down, felt the presence of another in the room. Looking to his left, he noticed the girl of his dreams, Haruno Sakura, sitting in a chair beside his bed. She had her arms folded on the bed as she laid her head down comfortably on them. "She's been there for 2 days. Naruto heard from across the room. Looking to the corner of the room where it was shaded from the outside sun, he saw his old sensei, Hitaki Kakashi. "She hasn't eaten anything, I've barely gotten her to drink either. All she did after her match was leave and ask what room you were staying in to check on you." Naruto had been looking at Sakura the entire time, thinking about how grateful he was to her for doing such a kind thing for someone like him. It then hit him as to what he meant when he said match. Wait, the Chunin exams, what happened? Did Sasuke and Sakura win their matches? Relax, Kakashi repeated, putting his hands up to calm him down. Sasuke won his match, and as for Sakura. Naruto watched as Kakashi looked over to his sleeping student. She probably could have beat Ino, but she was too worried about your condition. She did all she could to just end it in a draw. Naruto let out a sigh, tenderly wiping a small bang that fell out of her perfect hairdo. Sakura can be so great sometimes. Hearing his sensei's voice yet again, Naruto forwarded all his attention back to Kakashi. In a month the last part of the Chunin exams will begin. The doctors will be surprised you're awake. They said you'd be in a coma for the next several months and won't be able to compete in the final matches due to an extensive period of chakra depletion and a multitude of other symptoms. But it's really no surprise seeing as what's inside you. Yeah, Naruto agreed, knowing full well what was within him. Kakashi walked over to the metal slide door, putting his hand on the cold handle. Naruto. Kakashi called. Naruto hummed, looking from Sakura back to Kakashi. Kakashi looked to his student, and for the first time Naruto saw Kakashi in an unusual demeanor than his regular mellow appearance. Kakashi was feeling mournful for what Naruto had to go through as a child. Naruto, do you have anything to tell me, anything at all? Naruto's eyes slightly widened at what he was getting at, but he had to play his part and he was going to do so. Quirking his eyebrow up, he gave Kakashi a wondering look. What are you talking about, sensei? There's nothing you don't already know about me. Naruto could see Kakashi's eyes sadden once more before going back into that of his regular demeanor. Yeah. I guess you're right, see ya, and with that Kakashi left silently, shutting the door behind him, so the noise didn't wake Sakura. See, he's fine, Kakashi. He hasn't changed at all, said the reassuring voice of Maida Guy as he slapped him on the back. Guy, Kurenai, and Asuma had all been waiting outside wanting to hear the result of the two's talk. The three Junin couldn't find anything wrong with what the boy was saying. Usually when someone lies, even if it's not by a lot, their voice will change in frequency. That boy's tune didn't even waver. Yeah, my old man was probably just mistaken when he showed us that video. You heard the kid's voice, it wasn't that deep at all, Asuma said, cigarette in his mouth, as he smiled to his longtime associate. No, he has changed. Kakashi said, that sorrowful look back in his eyes. This shocked the other three, seeing as they hadn't noticed anything. All three seemed to look at him, calmly waiting for an explanation. Kakashi let out a sigh, knowing that his most energetic student was changing drastically. If you had listened carefully, you would have noticed that he dropped the chan suffix off Sakura's name. Kakashi was staring at the top of his bedroom ceiling, lying only in his full-body navy clothing. The only thing he could think about was the conversation he and his friends had had with the Sandame after the preliminaries. Flashback. What was that before? Questioned the worried Hitaki, wondering if it was okay and just leaving his student at the Konoha hospital. The 4 Junin and 2 special Junin had just left the ending of the preliminaries, getting dragged out by that of the Sandame. They had all witnessed Naruto's transformation and the power he showed while influenced by the curse seal. Anko had brought it up to everyone's attention on their way the Hokage's office that Naruto seemed to actually be in control while having the seal activated. That shocked some of them, knowing full well that Anko herself found it almost impossible to do, causing much agony and pain. But what shocked all the Junin the most was the fact that he was able to control the curse seal well enough to disable it. The 4 Junin watched silently as their Hokage quietly put his palm on a specific side of the wall surrounding the Hokage's officer. A small written incantation crawled out from under the Sarutobi's hand, starting to form a square shape. The square-shaped seal turned red as the Hokage pushed down upon the wall, triggering a panel, not even 2 feet away from where he was pushing, to open. Inside were a couple of old and dusty-looking tapes that looked like they hadn't been used for quite some while. Grabbing the very bottom tape within the pile, making sure the ones above didn't tumble over, he expertly pulled it out. Lightly blowing on the tape, small particles of dust swept over the clean oxygen they were breathing. Walking over to the experienced Junin, the Hokage held the decrepit tape eye level with one hand, the other held firmly behind his back. Looking into the different eyes of his Junin, the Sandame finally spoke. What I hold in my hand is beyond top secret. In here lays the murder of one Uzumaki Naruto. Astonishment was written all over the Junin's faces. How could that be? He was alive, so how was he murdered? You all are probably wondering how that can be, seeing as he's alive. Sarutobi Izorin said, almost as if he had read their minds. Well, you see, when Naruto was 3 years old he had already been subdued by multiple beatings within the village. I decided to make all my Anbu wear small cameras on the side of their masks, so I could identify the civilians that broke the 4th law and bring them to justice. But you see, one night a man by the name of Kohaku Chito, an Anbu captain, forgot to turn his camera off. You all know of the man I speak of, right? Yeah, isn't he the man said to be nicknamed the Jintaki Henji, human calamity, for his ruthless way in killing the people he is assigned to assassinate? Morino Ibiki asked, getting a nod from the Sandame, but didn't he and his squad go MIA 7 years ago on a high-ranked mission with his? He did, the Sandame nodded. Well, the mission part isn't true. I just didn't want this information I'm about to show you get out. You see, Chito, being like all the other villagers that held hate for our young Naruto, called his team for a secret meeting and planned to strike Naruto when the time was right. So, when Naruto's 5th birthday came, they made their move. The Sandame walked over to a television that he had pulled out of a closet near the window. The television was on a small roller, so it was easy for the Sandame to pull it out. Putting the tape into the VCR, the old man clicked the play button, the screen showing its rain of white static before turning into moving rooftops. The moving rooftops stopped as everyone could hear the ninja command his squad, halt. The Chito stood atop the roof's edge, casting his gaze down upon a 5-year-old Uzumaki Naruto leaving one of his favorite places, Ichiraku Ramen. Chito turned around, 3 Anbu members each with their own animal-designed masks coming into view of the camera. I'm hoping the trap is already set? Asked the Kohaku. A man wearing a bear-designed mask nodded, approving of his captain's question. Yes, judging from past birthdays, a mob of villagers should be soon to approach the Kyuubi brat, cornering him into an alleyway. Good, Chito said as the camera turned back to the young boy walking calmly back to his frail home, hoping that nothing bad will happen on the day before his birthday. All could see the ominous red glow that gloomed in some of the streets in front of Boy's road home. The ones watching the video couldn't see it, but Chito was wearing a very wicked smile under his lion mask. I can't wait to get my hands around his scrawny little neck. They all watched the rooftops start to move again as Chito and his squad started jumping from roof to roof again. His camera stopped moving as it spotted Naruto's frightened body pressed against the wall at the end of the alley. A mob of angry villagers standing, pitchforks and torches in hand, at the very opening of the passageway, taking their slow time in entering. Activate it, Chito's voice rang as they heard a small click from behind the camera's view. A metal wall rocketed out of the ground right in front alleyway's entrance, the oncoming mob of villagers getting locked out from their source of odium. Taking a leap down into the alley with his squad, Chito landed right in front of the frightened Naruto. Are you going to hurt me? They heard, watching Naruto's body tremble before the Anbu's killing intent. No, my boy, Chito said in a strangely kind voice, bring hope upon the boy's face. Sadly, they all knew the lie that was being held within his voice. I'm going to kill you. Naruto's eyes widened in horror as he felt the cold steel of 2 swords enter through his shoulders, pinning his to the wall. 2 of the other Anbu members behind Chito had driven their katanas into the boy's shoulder blades. Naruto let out a cry of pain, feeling his warm blood trickle slowly down the open crevasses that held 2 blades. Kurenai and Anko couldn't help but slightly flinch at the sight before them. Seeing this little 5-year-old who can't even defend himself, getting stabbed in his shoulders by the ninja said to protect the village and anyone within it. The other Junin, excluding Ibiki, didn't flinch but were startled by the magnitude of cruelty that these Anbu members held. Ibiki and the Sandame were the only 2 to not be fazed. The Sandame having already seen the tape a couple times and Ibiki having much experience in the matter of disturbing things due to his integrating skills. Everyone watched as Naruto's eyes tried hard to stay awake, almost falling unconscious from the loss of blood. Chito was already a mere foot away from Naruto as his head bobbed up and down, falling in and out of sleep. The 2 Anbu members that had driven the rapiers through the blonde's shoulders moved back, giving their captain enough room for his jurisdiction. Chito cuffed his hand under the Jinchuriki's chin, pulling his face up so they were eye level. Any last words before I kill you, brat? A small droplet of blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. Spitting at Chito, a mixture of saliva and blood slapped the Kohaku in the left cheek. Getting his message, said Naruto, smiling. Bite em. Naruto couldn't finish as he felt another sword pierce through his throat and cut straight through his esophagus. Kurenai and Anko gasped at the sickening crunch the sword made as it collapsed the boy's throat. The other Junin, Even Ibiki couldn't help but flinch at how loud the crunch sound it made was. The Sandaime himself, having seen the tape a couple times, had to flinch at it, still not used to hearing such a noise. Naruto's eyes became white and cloudy, his vision blurry as he couldn't feel anything lower than his neck. Chito let go of his sword's handle, backing away from the kid's body, looking at the boy that had 3 swords embedded into his delicate little body. A mad smirk was the only thing held on Chito's face under that of his lion mask. He'd done it. He had killed the demon spawn and was going to be rewarded by that of the villagers and mostly all the councilmen. Chito turned away from the boy, having his fill of the boy's innovative appearance. The 3 other Anbu members followed him to the mechanical steel wall, before one with a rat mask turned around, wanting to disgrace the already dead Uzumaki. The Anbu captain continued his walk, not minding what his subordinate was about to do. The lower Anbu walked to the departed boy, giving him a look over through the little slits that were carved into the masks. "Weakling" was the only word that echoed through the camera as the former live Anbu was sent flying past the side of the camera's view and into the metal contraption they had set up to block the civilians. The now deceased Anbu was left in the large dent, the dent being so large he didn't even fall out of it. His Anbu chest armor was smashed in, a large opening left where there was once his chest. Large quantities of blood were spilling down the metal door that came from the man's open torso, streaming down slowly till it hit the ground. The small camera whipped around catching Naruto's state in its lens. Naruto had his back hunched so they couldn't see his face, but they could still see the 3 blades stuck in the boy's body. Naruto's little cold hands grabbed the 2 shoulders in his shoulder, and with a quick vertical blur of his arms, the swords were out of his shoulders and out of the camera's view. Chito looked to his left as an Anbu with a sword impaled in his head slowly fell back, dead. Looking to his right he spotted a mirror image of what happened on the other side. His other subordinate falling dead, sword embedded within his head. Chito looked to the Jinchuriki, watching as he slowly wrapped both hands around the sword stuck in his throat's handle. Little by little Naruto pulled the blade out of his neck. Once out, the sword left a large slit hole in the blonde's gullet. Naruto swung the sword at Chito, but unlike his inferiors he was much faster. Chito to one right stepped back the sword whizzing by his body before grabbing the handle so he was in repossession of his sword. Chito's head had never turned away from the boy's wounded boy as he twirled the sword around so it was pointing at Naruto. The last thing that everyone saw was the blood-red slit eyes that were held by Naruto as he charged Chito, clawed hand raised back. And with one foul sweep, the camera was destroyed. The old Hokage walked to the VCR, taking the tape out of the cartridge. Looking to his shocked Junins he explained what they had just seen. "When I got to the scene I was welcomed to Naruto's body lying right next to that of Chito's, or whatever was left of him. I took Naruto to the hospital, finding a small pulse in his body. When I got there they hooked him up and started working immediately. For 5 hours, until 3 o'clock in the morning, I waited praying to God that he'd be okay. But it didn't seem fate was on his side, as if it ever was." Izorin said watching as his ninja listened closely. They said they were only able to keep him stable for so long on the medical supplies they had. He died at 3:15 on October 10th, his birthday. If someone of Tsunade's level were there then they'd be able to just heal him in time. They let his body stay in the hospital bed so I could visit him in the morning. When I did, I looked over his body. All the plugs they had on him were now off. His scars I had seen on our way to the infirmary had healed quite well, just leaving a small mark of discoloration. I thought it was the medical nin that healed those, but it turned out I was wrong. You see, a nurse had just come in and noticed the marks as well. We discussed it a little and it turned out that not even medical ninjutsu could heal such scars to the point the boy had them. With more inspection we realized the heavy blankets he had over him were slightly moving up and down. Looking under the covers we watched as he breathed in and out. The ninja's eyes widened at what was coming out of their Hokage's mouth. What a miracle! The nurse had cried, but I knew what had really happened. The Kyuubi had saved the boy, and even though he probably did it to save himself, I couldn't help but feel grateful. "Yeah, this is amazing," Kakashi said, not believing that one of the students he passed in the bell test actually died then came back. "But what does that have to do with what we saw in the preliminaries?" "Everything," Sarutobi barked, slightly startling the Junin by the volume of his voice. Naruto was never the same after that experience. Well, he shouldn't be. No one would. Kurenai, the genjutsu specialist, said, stating the obvious. No, what I mean is he was never the same after and before. Izorin said, getting the Junin confused at that. The way he acted was the complete opposite of how I thought he'd react. Believe it or not, Naruto, before the incident, was very quiet and shy. He never once talked to somebody unless I pushed him into doing it. But the day after that incident he became the Naruto we know and love. So what are you say? Ibiki asked, asking the question everyone was wondering. What I'm saying is that maybe he created an outer shell, an outer ego if you will. I don't think this happened out of mental stress. I think Naruto intentionally made an outer ego, to protect himself from the prejudice of our village. The Sandaime supposed, looking from each ninja to the other. Can someone really do that? Maida Guy asked, scratching his chin. Izorin looked to Guy and gave a reply, well, he's always been special. Flashback end. What if he'd really done that? What if he had really created a different personality? Was the old personality awakening? And was that so bad? Kakashi couldn't comprehend all the questions he had running through his head. He'd figure it out eventually, hard or not, he didn't care. If it concerned his student he'd find his answers, and protect Naruto no matter what. Naruto was lying comfortably down in bed. He watched the ceiling tiredly as he thought of the different choices and challenges that were going to be coming in his life soon. Sakura was no longer in the room, visiting hours done. Closing his eyes he fell asleep, needing to talk to someone. Naruto awoke in a long and narrow corridor. Walking forward, Naruto was met with a choice of crossroads. To the right there was an ominous glow, to the middle and left held darkness. Forget about the red glow. Naruto proceeded forward, plunging into the dark hall. Once at the end of the hall the silhouette of a boy stood in front of him. Darkness surrounded the boy from his waist up. What was that? The deep-voiced boy yelled, "We had a deal." Naruto showed no change in demeanor at the boy's attitude. "I did it because it wasn't the right time. Trust me, I'll do as you say. But you have to listen to me until then, understood?" The dark figure just grumbled something under his breath. "Very well. Good, I'll see you till then," was the very last thing Naruto said as he started to disintegrate from his mindscape. "Ha ha ha," laughed the boy as he walked out of the shaded area, sharp whisker marks, flowing blonde hair, and a small discoloration marked down his throat. "And once you're done giving orders, my fake self, I will finally be free to destroy Konoha." Naruto awoke within the hospital room. His conversation with his other going easier than he thought. Grabbing the hospital blanket and throwing it off him, he jumped off the bed, landing on the cold tile floor. Naruto walked across the room, wearing only a gown from the hospital. Naruto opened the window sash. Goosebumps crawled up his spine as he exposed himself to cold night air outside. He pushed the coldness aside as he put a foot on the windowsill and jumped out of the hospital building. He needed to get home so he could get ready for his next fight. Even though it was only a month, he knew he had to get much stronger. He was also at a slight disadvantage, not knowing who he was going to fight in the next round. Nevertheless, whoever he was fighting was most likely strong, and he wasn't going to rely solely on the 9,000 years of knowledge his other had gained from so many years of solitude. Naruto tiptoed to the front door of his development, trying to be as quiet as possible. He slowly entered his apartment complex, hoping to avoid the landlord of the building. Naruto had paid this month's rent, but knowing the property owner, he was going to ask for another payment. It was always like this, pay, but getting told he didn't. But the man knew he could extort the boy as much as he wanted, knowing full well no one cared for the boy. Slipping from one side of the base floor to the other, he got closer to his destination, the stairs. Getting to the base of the stairs, Naruto could only think that maybe fate was for once on his side. "Hey, yeah right, where do you think you're going, brat?" Turning around, Naruto was faced with the landowner. Naruto found it quite a sore, trying not to look at the large bald spot on the man's cranium. It didn't help that the man wore 3 sizes in clothes smaller than what he really was, which was a XXXL. His stench was another noticeable feature, smelling like garbage and pizza. The man didn't get paid that much, seeing that hardly anyone lived in the complex. So, most likely to his dismay, he got a second job as a pizza chef. The proprietor extended his greasy hand, indicating that he should hand over some money. Though the only thing Naruto could really think about was how many people succumbed to sickness after eating the pizza this putrid man made. Snapping his fingers, the man got Naruto's attention. "Hurry the fuck up, you little shit, I ain't got all day." Pushing aside the way he cursed so freely, Naruto scoffed. "Yeah right, I already paid you a week ago before starting the Chunin exams." "Read my lips," the husky man said, pointing to his orifice. "I don't give a shit." Now, the man extended his greasy and oily hand in a motion to give him more money. Naruto sneered once again at the man's ridiculous ploy to gain more money. Naruto couldn't believe how incompetent this man was. "Look, you sorry excuse for a man, I'm not going to pay you." The greasy man smirked, revealing his rotted dark yellow teeth. "Then you don't live here." Naruto's eyes lit up for a sec in anger. The man did ask for more money once in a while, but this wasn't the first time he'd heard Naruto say no. So what the hell was so different this time? "TCH, fine, I'm out of here." Naruto aimed for the door, knowing full well that there was nothing for him to get within his room. He had already changed into his repaired orange jumpsuit that was neatly folded next to his hospital bed, so what more was there to get? Naruto opened the door about to leave before the greasy man put his paw on the exit and slammed it shut. Naruto turned around, wondering what on God's earth this guy wanted now. Turns out he was only holding a medium-sized purple scroll, painted black flames coating the purple. Some strange pale-looking ninja with a note-shaped symbol on his forehead protector came in and requested I give it to you. I would have thrown it out, but he paid pretty handsomely for me to have it delivered to you. The man said, handing the purple cylinder to the boy. HMPH, Naruto grunted, taking the flame-engraved scroll from the balding man. The next thing Naruto knew, he was out of the aging apartment and out on the cold streets at 8 o'clock at night. Naruto looked back and forth through the streets, trying to remember where Ichiraku Ramen was from his current position. Crouching down, Naruto pivoted to the right, jumping high from building to his destination. "Well, hello Naruto-kun, I haven't seen you for a while." Tucci turned his head, the rest of his body still preoccupied with making more ramen for his other customers. Naruto gave him a weary smile, not knowing where he was going to stay after his late-night dinner. "Hey old man, I'll just have a large bowl of spicy miso ramen with extra egg, pork, and soy please." The Ichiraku owner nodded, turning back to his cooking, coming right up. "Ayame, can you grab me some vegetable oil, please?" "Sure thing dad." Naruto heard from the pantry as he sat down on one of the unoccupied stools. Reaching into his tan item pouch attached to the back of his left thigh, he took out the purple scroll. Scanning the scroll, he found the small sliver opening of parchment. Wedging his finger under the scroll's opening, he pulled, trying to open it. Unfortunately, it didn't budge. Taking his finger out, he looked at the scroll curiously, wondering why it wouldn't open. Putting 3 fingers in the fold this time, he pulled with all his might. Still didn't open. What? Was the opening molded to the scroll? Why won't it open? Naruto looked around, wondering if he had caught anyone's attention in his fruitless attempt to open the scroll. Luckily, he was the only one left in the ramen stall. Going back to the scroll, Naruto traced his thumb across the opening crevice, trying to find anything strange with it. Reaching the middle of the flake, Naruto felt the paper prick his thumb, leaving a small drop of blood right on the opening. Naruto put the scroll on the table, reaching for a napkin in the dispenser and wiping the blood from his finger. Naruto moved to wipe the coppery red dot from the scroll, but found it was gone. In fact, the black flame designs were gone too. Well, they were there, they just were now a different color, blood red. The crimson flame design soon evaporated into the air, leaving only the purple scroll. Naruto then realized why he couldn't open it before. There was a blood seal placed on it. No wonder it wouldn't open. Trying again, Naruto finally got it open. Naruto wore a victorious smile, even though he only got it open on pure incompetence. Scanning the first couple of sentences, he found it was giving him directions to a Myobobushi mountain, said to be the home of the snake summonings. So, he sent me this then. I guess I should get there as soon as possible so I can start training. If he was to get this scroll any sooner than today, he would have thrown the scroll out in the trash can right then and there. But his landowner throwing him out of his apartment showed him why his other had such a loathing for this village. And now he understood from their conversation during the preliminaries, why this village deserved to be obliterated. No. To have a leader that will make sure every one of his subordinates shows no prejudice towards those of different nature or being. Now he knew what he needed to do. It wasn't become Hokage and prove to those that looked down on him they were wrong. It was to gain power by leaving this village, destroy anyone that got in his way, and then come back and kill everyone in this village to start anew. Here you go, my favorite customer, Tucci said energetically, handing Naruto his spicy miso ramen as it knocked him out of his menacing plan of domination. Ayame was behind her father, watching the large smile of his face somehow grow wider. Every time her dad would serve Naruto, it was like he was getting happier and happier. It's because he'd been serving Naruto since he was 4 and Ayame was 8. Tucci couldn't be happier with his favorite customer was in the vicinity, and once you're done with that, I'm going to make you a new type of ramen I've been working on the house, to see what you think. Naruto might have been tired, but he couldn't help but smile at the old man's generosity. As Naruto watched Tucci get back to his dishwashing, he thought of his devious plans he was just plotting. No. I will not kill all of them. Those that have never wronged me and are willing to convert to my side when the time comes will be spared. But other than those that give in, will perish. Well, it was enough of that. He'd just enjoy his ramen and the new one Tucci was going to make before thinking any further. Naruto awoke with a sore back. Sleeping on a patch of what he thought was soft and comfy grass isn't what it's all made out to be. Naruto had decided to sleep in a small park just a couple miles away from the Hokage mansion, seeing as he needed to tell Sarutobi where he was going, so there was no concern about his whereabouts. Pushing on his lower back, he heard an audible crack, signifying his discomfort. Stretching for a bit, Naruto got loosened up before jumping to the Hokage's office. Knock knock. Come in, ordered Sarutobi Izorin, the third Hokage. Sarutobi looked up from his papers to be met with a smile from the boy he'd known all his life. What can I do for you, Naruto? Oh, I just came to tell you that I was going outside of Konoha's walls to train it. Naruto then realized just how old the Hokage was, and knowing him, he probably knew exactly what Myobobushi was home of. Yes, Naruto? Train where? The Sandame asked curiously, putting his document papers down so he could get a better look at the boy. Was this the Naruto they all knew, or was it the old Naruto trying to leave the village for good? Oh, sorry, I just remembered something important. Naruto lied, scratching the back of his head, his usual geeky smile extending wide across his face. Anyway, I was going to stay at Moyoko Mountain for a while. I hear it's a great place to train. The aging Hokage hummed to himself, contemplating on whether or not he should allow the boy clearance outside these walls. He did act exactly like Naruto, and he could merely send Anbu after him to make sure he didn't try to run away. Okay, Naruto. You have my permission to leave the village, but only for 1 month, got it? Right. Naruto was now happy that God gave him the only thing he was talented at, lying. Naruto wore another fake smile, turning to the door before looking back for a sec. Actually, can you get Kakashi-sensei and ask if he can train me a little before I go? The Sandame's face lowered a little at the boy's question. Sorry my boy, but Kakashi is up in the mountains training Sasuke-kun. This stopped Naruto in his tracks. Wait, so you mean to tell me he's only training one of his students when he has 3? Naruto-kun, calm down. Here is in commanded, not understanding why he was so worked up. Sakura-kun unfortunately didn't make it past the preliminaries, so there's no point to train her right now, and you're going to Mount Moyoko to train, so that only leaves Sasuke. Okay, first, just because Sakura's match ended in a draw, doesn't mean he just leaves her in the dust so he could train someone who did pass. He could easily train her while training Sasuke. Naruto, who wasn't in the slightest regretful that he'd just cut off the Sandame Hokage, continued his rant, and second, tell me what I'd do if I wasn't going to Moyoko Mountain. Who would I have to train with then, huh? While Sasuke got all the good training, I would just be stuck at home training with some fossilized scrolls I've already read thousands of times. Sarutobi was at a loss for words at the boy's tirade. And then he wondered if he should really tell the boy who he was fighting in the upcoming match. It would probably just fan the flames. I see. I'll try and talk to him. Naruto then realized how mean he'd just been to the old man, even though it wasn't his fault. I am sorry, Oyaji, old man. I'll see you when I get back from my training trip. With that, Naruto was out the door, leaving a quiet Sandame to his thoughts. Naruto-kun, you really have changed, and for some really strange reason. I feel as if it was for the better. Naruto walked through the streets of Konoha, noticing it was already reaching dawn. He needed to get out of here already. He wanted to get to Myobobushi Mountain so he could train already, but he kept thinking he forgot something in his conversation with the Sandame. It then clicked in his head as to what he forgot to ask. Who was his opponent? He knew who had passed the preliminaries but not who he was fighting. Though he didn't mind, in fact he was ambitious at this idea. This idea that he was at a handicap and that he'd just have to train so he was stronger than any of the opponents he might have to fight. A sleek smile scratched its way across his face as he picked up his walk pace, excitement washing over his body. Soon Naruto was in a full-blown sprint, just thinking about the different stuff he could learn. Naruto ran past the Chunin gatekeepers, leaving a small document in front of them stating his ongoing absence for a month on their small desk. Looking out past the gates and at the back of Naruto, Kotetsu and Azuma wondered why he was in such a rush. Looking at the document together they shook their heads, not believing he was getting so hyped on training. I mean, there was no chance he was going to defeat his opponent in the final exam. There was just too big of a power difference between the two. There was also rumors as to who he was getting special training from, and if they were correct, then Naruto should just forfeit right now. You never know, Azuma said out of the blue, gaining his companion's attention. He could win. Kotetsu looked at his longtime friend as if he were insane. You nuts. He's got no chance. Well, yeah, I guess you're right. Azuma agreed, putting the document within their desk's drawer. He's got no chance at all. The Sandame calmly laid his chin on his finger-locked hands, thinking of the small boy that he's just been speaking to. Hiruzen then felt the cool flow of air brush across his face as a squad of his top-notch and Bushunshin, body flicker, ed into his office. The squad consisted of 5, the leader standing in front of his lined-up subordinates, awaiting his order. You summoned as Hokage-sama? The captain questioned, his posture steadfast, his red-striped bird mask hiding some of his black hair. Yes, your mission is simple, the Hokage said, looking up to his Anbu. Follow Naruto to Mount Moyoko and make sure he doesn't try anything funny. This mission will take a month time for Naruto will be training. If he takes any more time then you are allowed to use force in bringing him back, other than that do not be discovered. You'll report hourly on where his location is and what he is doing. You're dismissed. Hi. The 5 said in unison as they shunshined back out of the room. Be careful, Naruto-kun, Hiruzen thought solemnly, going back to his paperwork. Sakura walked silently home. It was getting late and she'd been strolling around Konoha for quite some time. She had intended to visit Naruto one last time before going to her usual routine, but it seemed he'd already left. Sakura didn't really know why she was thinking about him so much lately, possibly because he did such a noble act in willingly sacrificing himself for their safety. She envied him somewhat. He always had that never-give-up attitude and fiery determination to get things done no matter what. Though he was so childish at times, it was so irritating. Well, it's to be expected seeing as he had no parents his whole life. Then at that minute in time Sakura stopped in her tracks, grasping the concept of no parents. For 13 years, for 156 months, for 676 weeks, for 4,745 days, for 113,880 hours he lived lacking the guidance and love of parents. She then tried to imagine her life with no parents. To say the least, she couldn't. She didn't know what it was like, being devoid of family. She'd just been taught that way. Noticing she was finally at the doorstep of her house, she walked in, noting her younger sister on the couch as she studied for her upcoming academy test. Other than Sakura, Bara, her younger sister, was the only ninja in the Haruno family. Bara was still an academy recruit, trying to pass first in rank, 2 higher than when her sister graduated. Bara was 10 years of age and looked like Sakura's identical twin. The only thing different was their clothes, and even those weren't far from looking alike. Bara had the same bright emerald eyes and pink hair as Sakura. She even had the same sized forehead. She sported the traditional Haruno clothing, one's indistinguishable to that of Sakura's usual attire. Though the entire stomach section was gone, making the usual one piece into 2 separate portions. Other than that it was the same, a pink tank top. She didn't like the sleeves, with black spandex short shorts under a pink dress that was cut in the sides, giving them more flexibly. The Haruno crest is adorned on the lower part of the dress in the front. Looking up from her prone position over her books, Bara spotted her older sister. A naughty smile then ran across her face. "So how's your boyfriend doing, Oni-san, older sister?" A small vein then popped onto Sakura's forehead, but she heard her sister say this plenty of times. "For the last time, Naruto is not my boyfriend." The younger Haruno put on an innocent smile. "Then why do you visit him all the time?" "Because he's one of my teammates and was hurt, so I wanted to make sure he was alright," Sakura said, walking over to their living room couch. "Well, if that's true, mind I go out with him?" Bara asked, her guiltless smile still holding firm. What? A deep blush came upon Sakura's face as she stammered. Why do you want to go out with him?" Sakura noticed Bara had a gleam in her eyes as she started to talk. "Why wouldn't I? He looked so cute when you brought me to the hospital." He was just lying in the bed calmly, his soft yet firm hair cascading his gentle face. Those marks on his cheeks just gave him more of an adorable look. I might just be an academy student, but even I could feel the small yet powerful aura that surrounded him. It kind of felt like that Uchiha's aura, the one you're always blabbing about, but much stronger. Bara knew this was taboo in front of Sakura, to say someone was stronger than Sasuke, but she loved annoying her sister. Peeved, yeah, and a dog could defeat a Junin. That makes loads of sense. Sakura chuckled, not getting the full understanding of what she'd just said. Sakura noticed Bara's shoulder-length hair shadow her face, her features unreadable. "Did you just compare my Naruto-kun to a dog?" Sakura then scanned Bara, becoming aware of the growing anger surrounding her. Sakura then realized how mean she'd just been by calling Naruto a dog. She couldn't believe it, she'd just called her teammate a mongrel. He almost died to protect his teammates from harm, and what does one of them have to show for it? She called him a dog. Sakura then felt the sword of guilt stab into her stomach as brisk tears streamed down her cheeks. "Bara, I am so sorry, I don't know what came over me. Pete, please forgive me. I'll kill you." Bara screeched playfully, hands out ready to claw at anything she sees fit. Jumping up from her position, she speared Sakura in the stomach. The couch Sakura was sitting on tipping backward and landing on the wooden floor, sending an echo throughout the three-story house. Hey, what's going on here?" Haruno Yuki complained, trying to separate her two daughters. It was quite easy once she wedged her DD-sized breasts between the two, acting as a buffer between the two. Yuki wore a one-piece pink house dress that held the Haruno emblem on the back, right between the shoulder blades. She looked just like her daughters, other than the fact that her hair was a darker pink but not yet red. After unscrambling the two, Yuki gave them a look that could kill, awaiting their explanation. She watched as the two, on their knees, stabbed each other in the cheek with their fingers, each one pouting. "Bara hit me for no reason. Sakura called my Naruto-kun a dog." They had both said it in the exact same time, but the only thing Yuki could hear was the resonance of that boy's name, Uzumaki Naruto. How dare her daughter even utter the demon's name, Haruno Bara. "Go to your room now," Yuki yelled, starting the two that were on their knees. What? Why? What did I do?" Bara protested, stammering a little at her mom's demeanor. The next thing the two sisters knew, Bara was slapped across the face. "Don't you dare talk back to me, young lady. Now get moving." Bara went over to her books on the floor, trying to not let loose the tears she was holding back. As she exited the room, she bumped shoulders with her mom before whispering, "I hate you." When the two on the bottom floor heard the thunderous slam when Bara shut her bedroom door on the third floor, Yuki gave a sigh. "I can't believe she'd even say his name in my house," she whispered. Sakura shook herself out of shock from her mom and sister's act just now, thinking about what her mom just said. She didn't know if she was supposed to hear it or not, but why was her mom being so mean to Naruto? "Mom, what's so bad about saying Naruto's name?" "Watch your mouth, Sakura-chan. You'll be the next in your room," her mom warned, eyeing her cautiously. "Mom, why is him so bad?" questioned Sakura. "Sorry, honey, but it's against the third's law," Yuki replied, heading for the stairs. "Oh, and one last thing." Sakura looked up from her thinking position. What law had the third made that dealt with him? Knowing Naruto, it was probably something stupid. "I know you've been going to see him at the hospital because he's your teammate, but remember this. He's dangerous and is probably trying to get every bit of guilt out of you that he can, being who he is, so be careful. You never know when he'll turn around and bite you till you're dead." Yuki finished as she walked up the stairs to their second living room. "What? Naruto dangerous? Haha yeah, and Kakashi's very punctual, ha ha ha. Sakura laughed inside, knowing Naruto's wouldn't hurt any of his friends. Though somewhere in the back of her mind Sakura was deeply worried if what her mom said was true. What if Naruto was not who he played out to be? Damn it, where the fuck am I? Naruto cried, sending an echo throughout the sea of endless foliage. Naruto was standing atop a 60-foot tree, surrounded by more greens. I followed the scroll specifically to this spot. Yet there's nothing here. I don't see a mountain anywhere. Excuse me my boy, but could you be talking about Mount Myobobushi? Howled a man at the base of the tree. The next thing the man knew Naruto had jumped down beside him. The man was wearing a brown cloth that covered his entire body and was hooded over his head. The only visible part of his features was his pale maw. The man was pushing what looked like a small novelty shop cart. Naruto gave the man a peculiar look, wondering how the guy knew where he was going. Yeah, but how'd you know? Because you said mountain and the only mountain near here is Myobobushi. The man said, looking through the small cart he had with him. Oh, so it's close by. Naruto said, happy that he didn't have much more to go. Peeved, not so likely, you still have about a month's worth of traveling ahead of you. The man said, crushing any hopes Naruto had of training. Naruto looked at the man like he was crazy, but you just said that was the closest mountain near here. What are you going senile? I never said that. The man countered, finally spotting the thing he was looking for within the pushcart. Ah, here it is. Naruto spotted the item. Another purple scroll like that of the one Orochimaru had sent me. The only difference was this new one was at least 3 times bigger. The guy heaved it out of the cart and laid it on the ground with an audible thud. It seemed awfully heavy. The man was on his knees now as he unraveled the scroll. Different seal designs plastered the inside of the paper scroll. In a row were different names, until the very end when there was blank spot for someone to put their name in. Naruto looked to the left of the empty block that held no name and found the signature of whoever signed it last, Hebisoshaku. Draw some blood and sign here. The man ordered, pointing to the vacant slot on the scroll, gesturing for him to write. Naruto looked at the man strangely. Why would I do that? Because I've been to Myobobushi before, just recently might I add, and this is the fast way to get there. It'll probably only take about 5 seconds, the guy explained, Naruto's hope of training rising insanely as he only caught the words, 5 seconds. Why didn't you say so in the first place? Naruto yelled, not wanting to waste any time as he left the kunai in his pocket and just bit on his right thumb. A small yet supplement amount of blood drawn. Naruto shot his right hand at the parchment, but was stopped short as the guy grabbed his wrist. Naruto then noted just how pale the man looked when up close. Just your last name please. The man smiled at his last word. Letting go of the boy's wrist, Naruto continued his course, starting to write Uzumaki in blood. Naruto looked up without moving his head, making sure the man didn't notice, as he continued to write his name. Something about this guy gave him the creeps. Well, not so much creeps, but the feelings that he's seen the guy before. His voice also rang a bell, but he still couldn't put his finger on it. Looking back down so he didn't mess up on his signature, he finished. Alright, done, Naruto said, sliding the scroll back over to hooded guy. For some reason the moment he said that he found his throat a bit sore, but he waved it off. Good, the man said, heaving the enlarged scroll back into his cart. The same smile that the guy wore before came back as he snapped his fingers. Bye-bye now. As he snapped his fingers, Naruto puffed into smoke. What the hell? The Anbu captain said, his teammates not knowing what just happened either. 1 minute they were watching him sign that weird-sized scroll, then the next second he was gone. What a minute. That was a summoning contract. Shit. If it really was what he thought it was, then Naruto could be at the home of any summoning creatures due to the scrolls. Reverse summon ability. The Anbu captain shined from his spot where the hooded man was, his associates following suit. Sir, please tell us where that boy just went. The cart-pushing man was facing away from them, staring off in the distance as if he was facing the direction of the boy. It's a beautiful day today, is it not? This question slightly freaked out the shinobi. What kind of answer was that? Though their captain didn't think it was that funny. Sir, I will only ask you one more time. Where did that boy just go? The man looked over his shoulder, a menacing smile spreading across his face as he slung his brown disguise off. Kukuku, like I tell you Konoha fools. If it hadn't been for his mask, his subordinates would have seen his eyes go wide. What? Why are you here? Damn, my head's killing me. Naruto complained, sitting up from his uncomfortable position on the solid rock ground. Looking around at his bearings, Naruto found he couldn't see anything due to the thick mist surrounding him. Even squinting didn't help. Getting up, Naruto staggered a bit, adjusting to how fast he moved. Naruto didn't know if it was because of the mist or not, but every time he took a breath he felt more dizzy. His vision was starting to get somewhat blurry as he continued his walk through the deep mist. Then Naruto didn't know what happened next. 1 second he was standing and the next he fell to the side, colliding hard with the stone ground. His vision was still blurry, but he could make out the 2 pairs of legs that were walking towards him. One pair was covered by tight purple pants with a white snake design crawling up both sides of the slacks, black boots on the feet. The second pair of legs was completely bare. Naruto could only make out the thin linen trim of the very light purple spandex the person was wearing. Other than that and the dark purple high heels the woman, he thought it'd be pretty weird if it was a male, was wearing. She had smooth and trim legs. The woman, now he knew this person was a female because of how her voice sounded, crouched down, her petite hands lying nicely on her knees. Is this the one Orochimaru-sama told all of us about? Naruto didn't know if the other one made a face or gesture showing his thoughts, but the next thing he heard was the woman once again. Well, then we should get him to Manda-sama already. He's pretty cute, he heard with a squeal at the end. The next thing he knew he passed out, only feeling the strong and rough hands of the girl's companion wrap around and sling him up over the man's shoulders. Hokage-sama, the Sandane could hear the faint voice of his Anbu captain. Looking to the open windowsill he spotted the Anbu captain he had sent after Naruto fall onto his office floor, body battle worn and bleeding profusely. What happened to you, my boy? The Sandane questioned. Putting down his smoke pipe he ran to the shinobi's side. We were following Naruto as you ordered, but it seems he misleadingly signed a summoning contract. He signed the Taiketsu no Habi, contract of snakes, Hokage-sama. Warned the mortally wounded Anbu. Sarutobi's eyes shoot open at his ninja's proclamation. If what he said was true, then the person behind this attack was none other than his former student Orochimaru. The Sandane then realized how injured the man below him was. Grabbing the man's arm, he attempted to help the shinobi up. Come, we need to get you to a medical center right away. No Hokage-sama, it is too late for me, the ninja complained, pulling away from his leader, trying to lie back down on the wooden floor. Oh Orochimaru, the one who attacked me, only let me survive to come and tell you Naruto will be back for the Chunin exams, and if you try to send anyone after Naruto, Orochimaru himself will kill them. Hiruzen understood his ninja's words, pulling off his Anbu mask that was supposed to help hide that person's emotions. The man might have been an Anbu. The organization said to hold no emotions, but the Sandane could see the sadness within his eyes. He didn't want to die yet. He looked to only be 23, maybe 24, a very young age to die. But thus is the life of ninja, they must sacrifice their lives to protect that of the village. You and your team shall have their names inscribed into the memorial stone for your valiant service to your village. Hiruzen reassured. A small smile came upon his face as he spotted the side of the fallen ninja's face curve up. Thank you, Hokage-sama. The ninja thanked, taking in one last breath of air as he fell limp, signifying his death. The grandfather let out a heavy sigh. He's seen much death throughout his old life, and he had still not been able to get used to it. Watching someone die in your hands, even if you do not know them, is very hard. Making his way out of his office, heading to the hospital so he could get some help, he thought of what was to come of Naruto's alliance with the snakes. Slit crimson eyes met that of gray eyes with concentric circles around the pupil. The two men were standing atop a river within a dark ravine. Behind them was highly elevated ground pouring a waterfall over its rough exterior. At the sides of the overflowing drop were two giant statues, standing from the very bottom of the gully, and stretching high above the falls. One was that of the Shodai Hokage, also known as Senju Hashirama, one of the founding fathers of Konoha. On the other side was Uchiha Madara, the former leader of the Uchiha clan, and one of the other founding fathers of Konoha. Each were in their battle uniforms, holding up a simple half-tora, tiger, seal signify their growing chakras. A dark light shined down upon the occupants in the gorge. The only visible aspect of their features was the gleam of power within their eyes. "Do you actually believe you will beat me?" the man with blood-red hair asked. His Rinnegan transmigration eyes never flickering at the emotionless view of his counterpart. The man with devil eyes merely smirked, his sharp demonic canines appearing. "I've already taken your demonic powers. All that is left is the power of the greatest Dujutsu, techniques, the Rinnegan. And seeing as pain is of no difficulty to me and you are of no comparison to pain, then this will be like taking candy from a baby. You were, are, and always will be a fool if you make such an assumption as me being weaker than that imprudent fool of a man. I am the closet thing to a god on this pathetic world." He thinks himself of a god when the mortal doesn't even know the taste of true power. He thinks of himself so highly yet he holds such a low form of the Rinnegan. The man smiled at his remark, knowing full well that pain served under his soon-to-be opponent. The other man chuckled darkly, his low voice sending echoes throughout the valley, and now that the Rinnegan user didn't have his demonic powers he couldn't help but feel compared to a feeble mortal as chills were sent down his back. "You may have the strongest form of the Rinnegan, but that does not mean you are the strongest in the world. For if you are a god then I am a titan," the man said, referring to that of the Greek gods and titans. He watched his adversary, a former demon, reach for the handle of his sword on the left side of his back. The delicate sword was sheathed within black leather. A green dragon design wrapping around the black sheath ran from the bottom to the guard. The guard looked like slim bullhorns aimed at the sword. In the middle was 3 red sphere-shaped diamonds. The one in the middle was the largest while the 2 next to it were somewhat smaller. The handle was a lot different than most. Instead of the usual cloth that wrapped around it were the scales of a black dragon, each one getting smaller as it reached the middle but bigger when it got to the hilt. The hilt held a metal loop that had 2 red strips of cloth tied around it. Once the Rinnegan user unsheathed the sword, the crimson-eyed man could see the irregular shape of the blade. The only thing different about this sword was the fact that near the guard it indented in and then back on both sides. The blade itself was quite long, being 5 feet long. It was without a doubt a blade able to keep the distance between 2 combatants. The demonic-eyed man watched stoically as his old tenant used only his right to hold the sword, as he pointed the long blade his way. Smirking menacingly, his canines showing once again, he laid his hand loosely on that of his Kusanagi sword he had tucked in the back, between the giant black ropes that tied around his waist. Even though he didn't unsheath his sword like the other man, he was fully prepared for battle. Being a master of all arts was going to help him greatly in this fight. Having 9,000 years of knowledge as well within his head would help him greatly against this man. Even with all the powers of the Kyuubi he still didn't stand a chance against the terrifying power of the real Rinnegan. He mentally chuckled, thinking about how it could be possible that the snake that seemed so easy to beat gave him all this power. For if Orochimaru had decided to not give him those experiments then he'd most likely not be fighting this Rinnegan user. But seeing as he did go through those hellish experiments he was fully prepared to deal with this guy. The power of the Kagaya and Senju were behind him after all. Though he only really needed the sage techniques of both Hermit and Snake and seeing as he already had them, there was no point in using his black Mokuton, wood release, and black Shikatsu Mayaku, corpse bone pathways. The same man let out a heavy sigh, confusing the Rinnegan warrior across the river at his antics. The only thing he could think about was why he needed all these powers to defeat the man that stood between him and the title of strongest ninja in the world. He may almost be at the same power as Uchiha Madara, but it wasn't enough to win. Though once he got his hands on the true power of the Rinnegan, Madara would be no match. Smiling at that he turned his attention back to the Rikudo Sennin, 6 Realms sage, across from him. Noticing the man's attention to the battle that was about to start, Kyuubi pulled his sword back to his side, right next to his head, his left hand coming to the handle so he was holding the sword with 2 hands now. His Rinnegan flaring, the human-shaped Kyuubi charged the past Jinchuriki with the intent to kill his former jailer. Naruto jolted up from his bedridden position overtaken within a cold sweat. The images of those 2 men rapidly flashing through his mind as they intertwined in battle. Looking back and forth to get a hold on his surroundings he found he was in a plain old room. Aside from him and the mattress was the small nightstand right by his bedside, a small lamp accompanying it. Rubbing his eyes lightly, he bent to his right, reaching for the lamp's on button. Flicking the switch, Naruto couldn't help but recoil at the light that radiated from the object. Chafing his eyes a bit more, they finally adjusted to that of the bright light that now emitted throughout the room. Using his arms to turn, Naruto planted his feet on the tile floor below before recoiling at how cold it was. This time, knowing of how cold it was, Naruto made sure that his feet would get accustomed to the cold instead of just throwing it on them. Standing up, Naruto stretched out his back before doing a couple small arm flexes, getting his body heated up from the cold atmosphere that surrounded him. Naruto hadn't noticed till recently that it must have been 40 degrees in the room, seeing as it was so cold. Not only that, but Naruto found his clothes were gone. The only thing he was wearing was a pair of purple boxers with small white chibi snake designs on it. And those weren't even his. Rubbing both arms in what looked like a small self-hug to try and stay warm, Naruto made his way to the door. Reaching for the doorknob, Naruto stopped, noticing the small creaking it made as it turned from the outside. Taking a couple steps back, Naruto watched as a woman with a large doctor coat came in, clipboard plastered in front of her face. Other than the fact she was wearing what every doctor wears, there was not much to tell about her. Excuse me? Naruto slightly stammered, not knowing where the hell he was. The woman had long brown hair, or whatever color he saw from over the rim of the clipboard, that traveled to just below her shoulders. Hearing the voice, the doctor lowered the health chart but an inch. The only thing new that was visible was her eyes. Yellow irises with a slit pupil, eyes of a snake. "It's good to see you're finally awake," the woman said as she went back to writing on her clipboard, her partial feature disappearing behind the board of health. "Where am I?" Naruto asked, finally getting a good grasp of where he was. If his assumptions were true, then he should be. "You're in Myobobushi, dear." The doctor walked over to her desk that Naruto strangely hadn't realized was there during his walk across the room. "Please sit back down, I need to give you a quick shot and you'll be able to walk around." "Alright." Naruto watched closely as he felt the prick on the inside of his elbow as she skewed the needle and punctured it into his skin. Soon, once the needle was in place, she lightly placed her thumb at the top of the plunger and injected Naruto with the serum. Looking to the doctor, he was slightly taken aback by her features, well, the ones on her cheeks. But being at Myobobushi, it didn't quite surprise him. For on the sides of each of her cheeks were purple scales that traveled down her neck. This was without a doubt the home of the snake summons. Noticing that she pulled the needle out and placed a small cotton ball on the minuscule puncture wound, Naruto couldn't help but feel somewhat dizzy as the room started to twist and turn. Feeling his innards churn and grind against his intestines as they raced up internal body, sent his straight for the nearest bucket in the room, a small garbage can in the corner. Throwing up everything he'd eaten on his quest to the mountain. "Don't hold back, the mixture I just injected is supposed to make you throw up," Naruto heard from across the medical room as he slowly got up from his crouched position over the bucket. What? But Naruto didn't get to finish as he went back to his throw-up container. "You fell unconscious because you inhaled a large quantity of toxins that are implanted into the mist outside of the village center. The antidote eats at that pollutant, but it must chuck out anything out," the doctor said, never once stopping to look at him as she continued to write on her clipboard. "The village center?" Naruto asked, finally getting up as he knew he didn't need to throw up anymore. Naruto noticed the doctor give him a quick glacé. "Yes, as I said before, we're on Mount Myobobushi, home of the snake summons. We use the mist as a defense mechanism against intruders. Unless you have a contract with us or have the ability to withstand all types of poisons, like everyone on this mountain, then you're most likely going to die in an instant." Naruto quirked his eyebrow up in a questioning manner. "But then why didn't I die in an instant?" "Well, did you sign anything of lately?" she asked, throwing him another glance. "And wait, now that you mention it, yeah, I did sign something," Naruto said, remembering the hooded man with the giant scroll. "Well, did you feel anything different after you signed it?" "No, well, my throat was a bit sore for a sec but nothing else." Naruto scratched the back of his, not knowing how he survived. The doctor then turned to Naruto, finally looking at him for more than 2 seconds. "Well, there you go. That was probably the Taiketsu no Habi you signed. It's making you start to develop glands in your throat that will protect you for a short period of time from any poisons that you inhale." Eventually it'll develop so it can protect you against any poison, inhaled or injected, forever. Short version, you'll be completely immune to any type of poison. Are you serious? That's awesome, Naruto said, just imaging someone trying to poison him only for them to find he was fine. Though he then realized he could have really used this during the nights of assassination attempts on him. Naruto then noticed his comment had earned him a smile from the doctor. It was the first time he'd seen her smile, and even though the woman had scales on the side of her cheek, which gave her a weird look, it still was a cute smile. And so what if she looked a little different? That never mattered to him if someone was different. I know, Orochimaru-sama has had many nations throw assassination attempts at him, and thanks to being a hubby, snake, sage, he was immune to them. She said, her smile fading as she remembered her other duty. Grabbing Naruto's wrist lightly, but tight enough so he didn't fall out, she ran out of the small wooden room. Come on, we got to go see Manda-sama. Naruto just let her drag him along, just thinking about the one thing she had said that caught his attention, hubby sage. Naruto noted the unique village he and the doctor had been running through, well, more like her dragging him. It was filled with different people, who for some reason gave him weird looks, but he just shoved it off as not having scales like they did. Because he couldn't find one person that didn't have scales and slit pupils, and man was there some weird colors he saw on them. Other than the people and the small wooden huts, for shelter, food, weapons, supplies and other necessary appliances, there wasn't much to talk about. Though he found he could barely breathe at the high altitudes of the rural community, but the doctor must have spotted his breathing dismay, for she told him he'd get used to the air. The only fancy thing he saw was when they stopped in front of the cave, that they're now standing in, and noticed the wooden carved snakes that seemed to crawl around the edges of the grotto. Naruto didn't know what he was looking at. He noticed the doctor was walking to the exit as if he was the only one supposed to be there. Forgetting about the woman, he forwarded his attention to the dark cavern. He sensed something big not too far off. It almost felt like it was right in front of him, but literally, he could barely see in front of him. He probably won't even be able to see his hands if it wasn't for the slight gleam of light he got from outside. Raising his arms up and searching with his hands to make sure there was nothing in front of him, he took a couple steps forward. He kept up this pace until he was completely engulfed within the dark obscurity. Anybody here? Hello, anybody home? Naruto yelled with his hands cuffed around his mouth to add volume. The words didn't really echo, so the end of the cave must have been near. Naruto was about to say something else but was beaten to it as the entire cave started to shake and rumble, small crumbs of rock and dust falling from the ceiling. Would you shut the hell up? A low voice echoed through the cave, dark yellow slit pupil eyes awakening within the darkness. Rows and rows of candles seemingly sparked on as the rumbling cave leveled out. At the very end of the grotto laid a giant purple scale-colored snake. The thing had a flat head with two trim-shaped horns on each side in the back that, too, was covered by scales. Under the dark yellow eyes it had was a large coat of black scales that almost completely surrounded the orbs. Are you Manda? Naruto asked, remembering the name the doctor had been talking about before. That's Manda-sama to you, brat, the large reptile said, lowering his head forward, coming only a couple of feet away from Naruto. Naruto then noticed Manda's eyes lower but an inch. Nice underwear, I like the snakes. Underwear? Snakes? Naruto asked, spacing each word as he didn't know what the snake was talking about. All of a sudden Naruto realized just how cold it was as he looked down to see, well, more like not see, his missing clothes. The only thing he was wearing was the purple snake underwear that seemed to let the freezing breeze just ride right up his skin to a certain area that wants to avoid coldness at all costs. But he didn't pay the slightest attention to that fact. No, he was profusely blushing with his arms stuck to his sides, remembering his forced stroll through the snake village. Now he knew why everybody was giving him those weird looks, and to think he passed it off as having no scales. Oh my god, I just went through the entire village in my underwear. Sucks to be you, the reptile said, making a smart reply as he raised his head back to the position it was previously in. Anyway, on to more serious matters. Yamada, yes Manda-sama? Naruto heard from the opening of the cavern. Looking behind himself, but making sure the high-altitude cold air didn't hit him, he spotted a figure using his back to lean against the wall. At closer inspection he had long spiky white hair that came down to his shoulders. His eyes were like Manda's, but the irises, instead of being dark yellow, were a bright gold. All around his eyes was the slight black pigmentation that covered his top and bottom eyelids and stretched but a mere half-inch out on both sides to give them a pointed look. For some strange reason he seemed to be wearing a purple Konoha Junin vest. Underneath the vest was a fishnet shirt. Naruto knew that was under there because the fishnet came out of the vest's sleeve holes and it stretched to the end of his biceps. He had baggy purple ninja pants that were a color close to the Junin vest he was wearing but darker. At his feet were a pair of black ninja shoes, not the usual sandals, but shoes that covered the toes. "This is that fool's, Orochimaru, soon-to-be apprentice," Manda said as he lowered his head back in the sleeping position he was recently in before his intruder's appearance. "So are we going to follow Orochimaru's orders?" Naruto noticed Yamada throw him a quick glance. It was all he could do to not blush in embarrassment, not knowing if the guy was just seeing what he looked like or if he was looking at the boxers. "Yeah, but only 'cause I don't have to do anything. Now take him," Manda ordered as he closed his eyes, ready to fall back into his deep slumber. "Come on, Naruto," Yamada then ordered, turning to the exit, but sensed that Naruto had not moved an inch. Turning around he saw Naruto's vibrating body, noticing he was vigorously rubbing his arms to try and keep warm. "I know you might be cold, but that's why we're going to go get some clothes." It's not that." Naruto shivered as he pushed past the coldness and walked up next to the snake ninja. "I just don't want the whole V village to see me naked." "But they already did," the white-haired man said, his facial expression staying stoic, not getting why he couldn't do it again. "See, can't you just get me the clothes and bring them here?" Naruto asked, now feeling the full force of the chilling wind against his body as he reached the opening. Naruto was very hopeful for Yamada had not said a word for a couple seconds, maybe he would get the clothes. "No," was the shortest word that shattered his hope as Yamada grabbed Naruto's wrist, and unlike the doctor, Yamada didn't hold back. So, through a painful wrist-wrenching, Naruto went through the whole village, once again, naked. It was way worse now, because instead of having his mind off on something else like in his previous stroll, he had to suffer from the embarrassing stares of the human-shaped snakes he passed. Naruto was happy when he heard Yamada's proclamation, knowing his suffering was at an end. "We're here." The building was like all the others, an old decrepit hut, but the one difference was the large sign in green lettering that read, "Metals Armory and Supplies." Going in he was surprised to see just how big it was. It looked so small from the outside. There were aisles of ninja supplies, while the walls were decorated with different custom weapons, like swords, staffs, and other specifically designed weaponry. Yamada noticed the man behind the cashier cleaning a sword. Yamada walked to the man, Naruto close behind as they were greeted. "Well, hello. How may I help you?" the man asked, putting down his sword as he addressed the pair. "We're here to pick up the customized items Orochimaru ordered earlier," Yamada said, remembering when Orochimaru said he'd ordered the boy stuff during their council meeting earlier that day. "Oh, so this is Orochimaru-sama's apprentice, huh? You're pretty lucky, my boy," the man said, looking over his counter to the boy that stood next to the other snake man. "I'll be right back." Naruto noticed the man had dark patches of black ash over his body. He must have been a blacksmith. Like all the other snakes he had scales, but was black, and eyes that were purple, with slits in them. Though the one thing different about this guy was the fact of his body size compared to the others. He was a bit chubby, yes, but the amount of all the muscle he had really made up for it. Not only his size but his height. He toppled over Yamada by 3 feet at least, and Yamada was like 6 feet 1 inch. Naruto and Yamada waited a couple minutes before the large man came back out, a large red box under his arm. "Here you go, kid. There's a dressing room in over there," the man said as he pointed to the corner of the cabin. A small sign hung over the door opening, "Dress Room." Walking over the door, Naruto entered and put on his new attire. Looking at his reflection within the mirror in the dressing room, Naruto couldn't help but think that Orochimaru had a somewhat good view on fashion. He saw the small note that Orochimaru had planted in the box which read, "I think the colors suit you." On his feet were toe-covered night black shoes like the ones Yamada wore, but this one was a bit different, because there was a shaft, making them look a little like boots, made of a stretched cloth that pulled tight whatever it wrapped. The shoes seemed to blend right into the baggy black ninja pants as the tight shaft constricted to the bottom of them. making it look like the entire lower body was a one-piece. Around his waist was a large piece of red cloth that stretched down to the bottom of his thighs. Naruto found it kind of hard trying to keep the large fabric from falling as he tried to tie the somewhat bigger than usual black rope that was supposed to hold it up. Though, after some difficult maneuvering, he got the black rope to hold up the red cloth firmly. The big loop that connected the two ends of the rope stayed tight, right in the front. Although, most of all, he favored his upper body. His upper body was adored with a long-sleeved, high-collar jacket, just like the old one he had. Though the sleeves on this one were about an inch or two longer, making the down to his knuckles if he held his arms to the sides. From the bottom of his chest and up, everything was black on the jacket, even the collar that came up to the bottom of his ears. While everything lower was coated blood red, other than the inch-thick black lines that stretched down the sides of the zipper. Naruto also felt that the cloth that was used to make this jacket was different. It was thick, so even though he had no shirt under it he won't be cold, but it was breathable, so if it was hot out he'd be cool. All was right about this costume was what Naruto thought, but then he noticed he couldn't see his mouth. Noting that the zipper even came up the collar, unlike his last one, he slightly unzipped it, going down a bit farther than he used to. A V shape was made in the jacket's collar as the zipper came down to the bottom of his chest. Taking another look at the mirror he nodded his head, now that's more like it. Taking the box he exited the room. Hopefully now you won't be embarrassed to walk outside? Yamada asked, getting a happy reply from Naruto. Yamada looked from Naruto's new clothing to the backside of the blacksmith as he exited the room once again. Are you getting Orochimaru's other gift? Yep, was the bellowing reply. Other gift? Naruto asked himself, pulling at the end of his right sleeve to get a better feel of it. The man came back out with another box. This one was a bit bigger than the last one, as he put it on the counter that was between them. The man moved to the right of the box as he opened it. Naruto couldn't really see into it because the counter was higher than average. The man opened the box, taking out two small black square pouches with a small seal on the opposite side of the buttoned opening. He bent down so Naruto could see the items clearly. This, my boy, is two custom shuriken holders. These seals you see on the back connect to whatever you place them on, and only you can take them off. If someone else tries to take them they won't budge. The blacksmith said as he handed Naruto the pouches. Inside the two pockets are 3 seals. In each seal is a different type of shuriken. There's the double-edged 3-pronged shuriken, the double-edged 4-pronged shuriken, and the double-edged 5-pronged shuriken. The double-edged 3-pronged shuriken is more used for speed than power. The double-edged 4-pronged shuriken is mostly used because it's evenly balanced in speed and power. While the double-edged 5-pronged shuriken is the slowest but the most powerful. And do not by any means be conservative, there are countless numbers of shuriken within the incantations. Alright, next, he yelled as he went back to the box while Naruto attached the pouches right above both sides of his rear and right under that of the black rope. The next thing he pulled out was a rectangle-shaped pouch that had seams to hold 3 6-inch spikes instead of pockets to hold shuriken. These are special-made black chakra metal. Pour chakra into them and they could pierce through anything and everything. This gets strapped right over your calf muscles and should only be used when you're certain they will connect and be fatal. The man described handing over the ever-so-popular assassination tools that have been all the rage. Naruto took the weapons with delight, crouching on one knee as he clipped the strap around the top of his calf muscle. He found it cool that the top of his calf was right where the hem of his shoes shaft and his pants met, so now it looked like it really was a one-piece. Getting back up, Naruto saw the man's hands out. Pull your sleeves up and place your arms on the here, he said as he motioned to the counter. Naruto did as ordered, scrunching his sleeves all the way up to his shoulders before placing his arms on the counter. The blacksmith put his giant hands back in the box before taking out 2 black arm braces. Naruto watched as he opened the brace and attached the small faux leather fabric that was under the brace itself. After slapping both fabric and brace on both arms, Naruto noticed the 3-edged bent spikes that protruded from the outer side of the forearm. These too can be filled with chakra, but these really shouldn't be used to attack, they're more for defense. And last but definitely not least, Naruto didn't need to know that the large man was going back into the box as he pushed against his new arm braces, making sure they were tightly secured around his arm. Taking note to how good the blacksmith had attached them, Naruto forwarded his attention back to the man, his eyes growing wide at what he saw. "Your own Kusanagi sword," the man said, glad that his workmanship made the boy happy as Naruto held it in his hands steadily. The entire thing was a long narrow rectangle that was grayish-white. On both sides of the sword was an indent in the middle that ran the length of the sheath and handle. The color in the indent was black. Pulling the sword out of the sheath, he spotted the pitch-black metal that sword was made of. Also, he noted just how light the sword was. To see an image of his weapons, go to my profile page. The blacksmith noticed Naruto's demeanor towards the fact that it was so light. "It might be light, but I personally made that sword with the finest metal I have. The sword could cut through a tree like butter, and that's without adding chakra," the man said, noticing the sparkling gleam in Naruto's eyes. The man then looked to the box next to him and put on a smile as he grabbed it. "Here," he yelled as he threw the box up in the air. Naruto, getting what he was doing, twirled forward, bringing the sword down diagonally, completely slicing the box into two. Once the box hit the ground, Naruto sheathed his new sword. Naruto watched as Yamada started to pay the man, and Naruto then wondered where the strap was that connected to the sword so he could put it against his back. Then Naruto got an idea as he nicely slid the sword between the black layers of rope that was wrapped around his waist, in the back. "That was very resourceful, Naruto." Yamada, staying stoic, commented as he was the first to notice the no-strap situation Naruto had just a second ago. They were now on their way to the place Yamada had told Naruto they were going. "Thank you, Yamada-san," Naruto replied happily, feeling really good for once getting complimented. "It's either sensei or Yamada-sensei, kid," Yamada said, making sure that Naruto show respective manners when with one of superior abilities. Yamada stopped, putting a hand in front of Naruto so he'd stop. "We're here." Naruto looked around. They must have been in a remote area cause he didn't see anybody or anything other than gravel and rock. Looking at the large elevation change in front of him, Naruto couldn't help but think there was another mountain on this one. Haha, mountain on mountain. Naruto thought, mentally chuckling at his stupid joke as he literally had to bend back just to try and see the top of the high elevated land. The high landmass seemed to stab into the clouds as it got higher up. Looking to his right, he was going to ask Yamada something, but found he had moved. Looking in front of him, Naruto spotted Yamada a couple yards away facing him. "Your first incentive," Yamada began as he threw his right thumb over his shoulder and at the large wall of rock behind him, "is to climb to the top." Naruto corked his eyebrow up. "And why am I doing that?" "Because in 1 month's time," Yamada started as he lowered his right hand some and pointed straight at Naruto. "I'm going to make you into a hubby sage." That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.